Chapter 130. Even in Wu country, a mid-ranked cultivation country, he had heard of the Great Void sect's Great Void Gemini. If Zhong Xianzi and Bei Hongzi really led the Great Void sect to intervene in today's matter, even if they won the battle, they would suffer a great loss. Tian Yizi hesitated. The reason why he agreed to Purple Yin's request was not only because of his friendship with Purple Yin, but also because Old Devil Purple Yin had promised Tian Yizi a nascent formation pill. For the sake of this pill, he didn't mind exterminating a mere Ning city. But if he were to go against the number one righteous sect in Yu country, Great Void sect for a pill, the loss would outweigh the gain. It wasn't easy to get a nascent formation pill in Wu country, but there was still a way. Tian Yizi's eyes flickered. Suddenly, a blood jade compass on his waist vibrated violently. This compass was called the Suspending Corpse Plate. It was a magical treasure used to search for corpses for refinement. Whenever it encountered a high-quality treasure, it would slightly vibrate. But today, this blood jade compass was vibrating so frequently even though it was so close to Ning City. Could it be that there was a high-grade corpse in Ning City? The Suspending Corpse Plate could determine the grade of a corpse when it was alive. The highest grade it could determine was a peak nascent soul corpse, but this time, the needle on the Suspending Corpse Plate was rotating erratically. This clearly indicated that there was a corpse that surpassed the nascent soul realm in Ning City, the corpse of a spirit-severing cultivator. For a split second, Tian Yizi's eyes revealed a ruthless glint. It wasn't worth offending the Great Void sect for the nascent formation pill. But for the corpse of a spirit-severing cultivator, no matter what, he had to break into Ning City and find that corpse. Tian Yizi reckoned that with his physique, if he could obtain the corpse of a spirit-severing cultivator, there would be a glimmer of hope for him to break through to the spirit-severing realm in this life. And once he did, he could even unify Wu country. Under the greed, the so-called Great Void sect would no longer be scary. His thoughts were racing. Just at this moment, when Old Devil Purple Yin was hesitating on how to face the Great Void sect, Tian Yizi had already leaped out of the ship with a huge coffin on his back. He sneered and rushed toward Wuxia Xianzi. He patted his storage pouch and took out a dark gold brick. Hee, this is a matter between our two sects and Ning City. Wuxia Xianzi, it's better if you don't intervene. Otherwise, our sect will not show any mercy. On this brick, Tian Yizi had used 90% of his magic power and 10% of his strength. He only wanted to intimidate the Great Void sect and had no intention of taking Wuxia's life. Severely wounding Wuxia might make the Great Void sect give up on helping Ning Qing out of fear. But if Wuxia was killed, the Great Void sect would lose their old ancestor and would certainly be enraged and fight to the death. As soon as the brick appeared, Old Devil Purple Yin raised his eyebrows and was slightly surprised. He was surprised that Tian Yizi, who was an outsider, had made a move before he could make a move. As for Wuxia, she frowned slightly. Both of them were old ancestor-level figures, but Wuxia's magical power was much weaker than Tian Yizi's. Moreover, the dark gold brick was a top-grade magical treasure that was only a step away from the supreme grade. Its power was astonishing. However, since Wuxia Immortal was determined to help Ning City, she wouldn't be scared off by a magic treasure. In her point of view, even if she couldn't defeat Tian Yizi, it wouldn't be easy for Tian Yizi to defeat her. She only needed to hold on until her two senior brothers arrived. With the three of them working together, there was nothing to fear about a mere Tian Yizi. The dark gold brick radiated thousands of black lights in the sky and turned into a 1,000 feet small mountain. With a rumbling sound, it pressed down on the top of Wuxia's head. On top of the mountain peak, a layer of earth light was emitted. Immediately, the mountain peak that was formed by the magical treasure grew by another 30%. This is the Earth Spirit Divine Ability. Old Devil Purple Yin revealed a slightly fearful look. The Earth Spirit Divine Ability was a special divine ability in the Spirit Augmentation Divine Ability. It could enhance the power of an Earth attribute magical treasure. The specific extent of enhancement depended on the spirit iron of the spirit augmentation divine ability. This golden brick was not far from the supreme grade. With the earth spirit divine ability, its power was increased by another 30%. Perhaps even an ordinary supreme grade magical treasure wouldn't be as powerful as this brick. Witnessing such power, the elders and disciples of Extreme Ean Gate revealed a look of awe. On the other hand, more than half of the disciples of Heavenly Tao's sect were not alive. The remaining ones had a strange aura and were not surprised at all. Suqiu retreated hastily when the magical power of the falling mountain peak hit her chest. Her blood and qi were in turmoil. She was secretly shocked by the power of this magical treasure. She had a clearer understanding of Tian Yizi's strength. She was certainly not his opponent. However, she might be able to delay him for a while. Suqiu patted her storage pouch and took out pieces of golden immortal talisman. She threw them up high and performed a hand seal. The golden talisman immediately turned into golden light. The golden light split into countless fine golden threads and spread out in all directions, entangling the mountain peak tightly. Then, Suqiu shook her shoulder and a pair of purple butterfly wings sprouted out from her shoulder. With a wave of her hand, a crystal bracelet appeared in her palm. With a gust of fragrant wind, it turned into a huge crystal ring. This ring was Suqiu Xianzi's natal magical treasure. It was also a weapon, a high-grade magical treasure. Its name was Water-like Ring. With a flap of the purple butterfly wings, a strange spiritual qi rolled Suqiu up. Then, her shadow flashed and disappeared without a trace. In an instant, she had crossed thousands of feet and appeared 100 feet behind Tian Yizi. Then, she took out the water-like ring and struck it down. This divine ability that could cross thousands of feet was obviously something that only a nascent soul cultivator could master, teleportation. From locking the golden mountain peak to growing the wings on her back and using her magical treasure to attack Tian Yizi, everything happened in an instant. Suqiu Xianzi's rich adaptability was enough to be seen through. Although Suqiu Xianzi was a woman, she was worthy of being the old ancestor of Great Void. Her means were amazing. Tian Yizi was secretly surprised. He knew that he had underestimated Suqiu. It seemed that it would be difficult to intimidate this woman with one move. However, Tian Yizi showed no fear in the face of the attack from the water-like ring and only sneered. Profound jade teleportation, spiritual equipment, high-grade magical treasure. You're not bad as a woman. But since you don't want to take the chance to live, don't blame me for being merciless. When the water-like ring was about to hit his back, the lid of the black jade coffin suddenly moved. A slit was opened and a rotten and stinky arm was stretched out from the slit. It was glowing with a strange blood light and grabbed the water-like ring with its palm. A high-grade magical treasure was easily grabbed by the unknown arm and crushed into pieces. Suqiu, who was 100 feet away, was immediately affected by the destruction of the magical treasure. She spurted out a mouthful of blood and stained her gown. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. A high-grade magical treasure was crushed. What exactly was hidden in the black jade coffin? As Tian Yizi turned around, his vertical eye stared at Suqiu, flickering with a desolate blood light. In an instant, Suqiu felt an extreme sense of danger. She shook her shoulder and flapped her butterfly wings, immediately teleporting thousands of feet away. Tian Yizi's third vertical eye, what kind of divine ability does it have? If I was one step slower, I would have died. Suqiu's heart was beating rapidly. She felt a faint fear towards Tian Yizi. Although Tian Yizi was only a half-step nascent soul cultivator, his means were too unfathomable. Perhaps he could even fight an early nascent soul old monster. Not only Suqiu, even old devil Purple Yin's eyes shrunk in fear. Something is wrong with this Tian Yizi. 10 years ago, he wasn't as powerful as he is now. Forget it, this person is a friend and not an enemy. No matter what, it's more important to take down Ning City first. If this drags on for too long, the two old men of Great Void sect will come. Old Devil Purple Een was lost in his thoughts. Suddenly, his face turned gloomy and he raised his head. As for Tian Yitzi, after seeing Suqiu escaping, he didn't have the intention to chase after her. He only sneered from afar, looking at the two escaping lights that were flying towards him. These two old things have come after all, but it doesn't seem like they're here to get in the way. Tian Yitzi sneered. No one knew what method he used, but the vertical eye flashed and the golden threads that bound the dark gold mountain was immediately dissolved into nothingness. Then, with a wave of his hand, the small mountain turned back into a dark gold brick and returned to his hand. The scenes of earth-shattering battle stirred the hearts of the three black demon guards in Ning City. There was fear, but more than that, excitement. In the past, under the leadership of Old Devil, there were countless battles of this level. However, Nangong's order was to stay put and observe the situation quietly. For guards of Ning City, listen to my order. Don't attack until the reinforcements arrive. Nangong's eyes were solemn as he gave the order in a deep voice. Each of the guards looked puzzled. They knew that there would be a great battle, but they didn't know that the enemy would be so strong. Now that they were informed that there would be reinforcements, other than the 7 Apricot 4 families, they could only think of Sinister Sparrow Sect. Could it be Sinister Sparrow Sect? However, if Suqiu Xianzi is in danger, should I save her or not? Nangong was slightly hesitant. He knew that Ning Fan had always been merciful. Now that he saw old ancestor Tai Su confronting the two great evil sects for Ning City, he wouldn't believe that it had nothing to do with Ning Fan. In that case, he had no choice but to save her. Suqiu continuously activated the butterfly wings and performed 2 instantaneous movements. She was panting, her face was pale and there were traces of blood at the corner of her lips. This instantaneous movement was just an additional ability of the profound Jade Spirit equipment. Its power was far inferior to the instantaneous movement of a nascent soul cultivator, but the consumption of magical power was extremely shocking. 2 instantaneous movements, one to seal the magical treasure of the mountain peak and the other to attack with the water ring, had consumed more than half of Suqiu's magical power. However, Tian Yitzi was still calm and composed on the opposite side. The gap between them was too shocking. I'm afraid it's hard for me to save Ning City alone. Senior brothers should be here soon. When Suqiu's heart was in a mess, she suddenly sensed something and revealed a relieved smile. Above the sky, 2 auras that weren't any weaker than Suqiu appeared above the sky of Ning City. 2 senior brothers, quickly join hands with me to restrain this devil. Suqiu felt relieved. With the 2 senior brothers, Tian Yitzi might be able to win. However, the words of the 2 old men who rushed over were like a bucket of cold water to Suqiu. Friend from Wu country, this matter is the idea of my junior sister alone. It has nothing to do with Great Void Sect. I hope you can forgive her recklessness. Zhong Xianzi and Bei Hongzi gazed deeply at Tian Yitzi with fear in their eyes. The third vertical eye, the black jade coffin, the broken arm, all these made Zhong Xianzi afraid of someone for the first time in his life. If he didn't guess it wrong, this Tian Yitzi was probably. Chapter 132. Suqiu twisted her body slightly, feeling extremely uncomfortable. Ning Fan, on the other hand, immediately let go of her after he retreated to the city wall of Ning City. Then, he returned to the sky in a flash. Suqiu was slightly startled. This white-robed youth didn't seem to have any intention of molesting her body. That's good. The silk was torn apart by Ning Fan, but the purplish-red color on Suqiu's ankle deepened. It seemed like the poison was still there. However, she couldn't care less about the poison as her magical power was depleted. She felt slightly ashamed. She couldn't save Ning City, but it seemed like she was saved by Ning Fan. Sister, eat this pill candy. Brother Fan said that this pill can replenish qi and blood. Little Jiha, who was at the side, handed over an exquisite jade bottle. Inside the bottle, there was a faintly discernible pill fragrance of a third revolution pill as well as a trace of overly sweet fragrance. Suchio's eyes fell on the girl in front of her. She was slightly surprised and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She didn't take the pill candy for a long time. Since this girl addressed Ning Fan as Brother Fan, she must be Ning Fan's wife or concubine. However, this little girl who was only 14 years old actually addressed her as sister. Although she hadn't cultivated for 1,000 years, she had lived for 600 years. Being addressed as sister by a 14-year-old girl really made her dumbfounded. My name is Ji He. This pill candy was concocted by Brother Fan for me. It's not bitter. Ji He smiled brightly and shoved the pill bottle into Suchio's hand. Then, a trace of worry flashed across her eyes as she raised her head to look at the battle in the sky. She couldn't intervene in this battle. She could only hope that Brother Fan would win. Behind Ji He, Si Wuxia's eyes were filled with uneasiness. The bloody scenes seemed to be connecting her fragmented memories. Suchio held the pill bottle in her hand and remained silent. She couldn't refuse the generous gift from the girl in fox fur. She pulled out the bottle stopper and was slightly surprised by the sweet fragrance of the pill. This is the bitter pill. She seemed to be talking to herself. The bitter pill was concocted from the 1,000-year-old bitter grass. It was a peak third revolution pill. It tasted bitter and hard for cultivators to swallow, but its medicinal effect was extremely outstanding. A single pill could allow a golden core cultivator to recover 10% of their dermic powers in an instant. There were more than 10 dark yellow pills in the pill bottle. These pills were priceless. Even Suchio Xianzi herself couldn't afford such high-grade spirit-recovering pills. She couldn't help but feel surprised. How generous was Ning Fan to his own woman? A bottle of peak third revolution pills was given to him just like that. Recalling Ji He's words, Suchio was shocked. If this pill was concocted by Ning Fan, wouldn't his concoction skill have reached the peak of third revolution? She took out a pill and put it into her mouth. Suchio's face suddenly showed a slight surprise. Then, her bright eyes revealed a complicated and sentimental expression. The bitter pill was the most bitter, but this pill wasn't bitter at all. Instead, it was as sweet as honey. The reason was that an extremely expensive ice bee jelly had been mixed into the medicinal pill. Not only did it cause the medicinal pill to recover magic power more obviously, it also caused the originally bitter medicinal pill to become sweet. It's so sweet, Suchio looked at the pill bottle in her hand. Her eyes flashed with inexplicable emotion. If this pill was really concocted by Ning Fan for Jiha, then he must have taken great pains to integrate the ice bee jelly into the pill so that the little girl wouldn't suffer. No wonder this little girl called this pill as sugar pill. Sugar pill. It was her fortune to be able to marry an alchemist who cared for her so much. Originally, Suchio's impression of Ning Fan was merely that she didn't dislike him. The outside world had a widespread reputation of Ning Fan as a lecher. However, Suchio had once probed Ning Fan in Long Inclination Palace of Sinister Sparrow sect. Although his primordial yang was lacking, he didn't seem to be a promiscuous person. Moreover, he hid it very well. That was why she gave Ning Fan a smile. Now that she was saved by Ning Fan and understood his meticulousness, her impression of Ning Fan had improved. She realized that she couldn't see through Ning Fan despite her 600 years of experience. The only thing she could see was the stubbornness in Ning Fan's heart, which was very similar to her. Why did he choose to cultivate the devil path? Suchio couldn't help but think. Shoot all the spiritual arrows and return to the city immediately. Rows of flaming arrows exploded in the sky, burning like fireworks. The refined corpses of the disciples of Heavenly Tao screamed miserably before turning into ashes. 10 arrows per person. 2,000 devil cultivators meant 20,000 spiritual arrows and 200,000 immortal jades. Old Devil Purple Yin's eyes were filled with shock. He ordered the disciples of Extreme Yin to not rescue Heavenly Tao sect until the spiritual arrows were used up. The sect master of Heavenly Tao sect, Tian Yitzi, was sitting calmly on Mount Tai, as if he didn't care about the death of the 6,000 disciples. On the contrary, his eyes were filled with ridicule. After the 10 spiritual arrows were shot, the 4 guards of Ning City rode their demonic beasts and landed in the formation light of Ning City. The formation light contained a great mystery that was enough to cause great casualties to the enemies. Ning Fan wouldn't waste this grand formation. Before the reinforcements of Sinister Sparrow sect and Fire Cloud sect arrived, it was unwise to let the 4 guards of Ning City fight the 2 sects alone. The 4 guards of Ning City retreated back to the city like a receding tide. Ning Fan landed on the city wall, but his eyes were filled with puzzlement. Outside the city, there was a thick pile of corpse ashes on the ground. All 6,000 disciples of Heavenly Tao sect had died in the fire arrows. However, Ning Fan didn't feel the joy of victory. Instead, there was a trace of uneasiness in his eyes. He had 3 questions. The first was whether the disciples of Heavenly Tao sect were humans or corpses. If they were corpses, half of them still had the chi of a living person. If they were humans, their flesh had decayed. What was the difference between them and refined corpses? The second question was Tian Yitzi's calmness. The death of 6,000 disciples had left behind corpse chi that filled the sky. Not only did the corpse chi not infuriate Tian Yitzi, it made him look happy instead. The third question was the black coffin on Tian Yitzi's back. There was a trace of extremely heavy chi in the coffin that made Ning Fan fearful. The third corpse pupil and the black coffin. This Tian Yitzi wasn't simple. Why wasn't Tian Yitzi angry when his disciples died? Ning Fan's heart had a vague feeling that he might have missed out something crucial. Nangong had the same expression as Ning Fan's. "Young master, should we change the plan a little?" Nangong said hesitantly. "No need. I want to confirm something, activate the forbidden space formation and the defensive formation. When the enemy's attack reaches its peak, activate the counter-shock formation." Ning Fan's eyes flashed. This grand formation of Ning City was personally modified by him. Although it was only a nascent realm grand formation, it was, in fact, composed of 3 grand formations, 2 in the light and 1 in the dark. Putting aside the forbidden space formation and the defensive formation, the key was the counter-shock formation. The counter-shock formation was an extremely strange formation that could reflect all the enemy's attack. When the grand formation of Ning City was about to be broken, it would be the moment when the enemy's attack would reach its peak. At that time, if all the attacks were reflected, in the sky, Tian Yitzi returned to the central ship with a flash of traveling light. The vertical eye on his glabella flickered and looked at the formation light of Ning City, as if he had seen through something. However, his expression didn't change. Instead, he transmitted his voice to the direction of Extreme Yin Gate. "Brother Purple Yin, elder brother has used up the spiritual arrows of Ning City at the cost of 6,000 disciples. Should I hand over the task of breaking the grand formation to you?" "He, of course. This old man is the one who led the attack on Ning City. Naturally, it's impossible for me to not contribute." Old Devil Purple Yin laughed dryly and looked at Ning City with deep dread. 2,000 devil cultivators and 20,000 spiritual arrows, 10 volleys of arrows had eliminated 6,000 disciples of Heavenly Tao sect. This made Old Devil Purple Yin hesitate for the first time. Was it a mistake to attack Ning City? He knew that Black Devil Ning was Ning Fan. That was why he dared to attack Ning City, because he thought that he only had to face a harmonious spirit junior whose concoction technique had reached the 4th revolution. However, he didn't expect that old ancestor Suchio of Great Void sect would intervene. He also didn't expect that Ning Fan didn't treat money as money. 200,000 immortal jades was almost all the wealth of Extreme Yin Gate, but it was used to unleash 10 volleys of arrows. However, it seemed that the spiritual arrows of Ning City had missed their target. Otherwise, he would have shot the disciples of Extreme Yin Gate after killing the disciples of Heavenly Tao sect. He was afraid that the 4,000 disciples of Extreme Yin Gate would be buried here. Without the spiritual arrows, the task of breaking the Grand Formation wouldn't be that dangerous. Even if the Grand Formation was a nascent realm Grand Formation, there would always be a way to break it. Once the Grand Formation was broken, killing the devil cultivators of Ning City would be like catching a turtle in a jar. The only thing he had to be wary of was Ning Fan's strange strength. Ning Fan's body refining technique was extremely strong, just like the rumored Silver Bone Realm. No, he can't be at the Silver Bone Realm. Perhaps he has used some secret technique to temporarily reach the Silver Bone Body Refining Realm. It must be so. Old Devil Purple Een wouldn't believe that Ning Fan could cultivate to such a high level of body refining realm at the age of 20. This was impossible, unless the Devil World, Demon World and Heaven Immortal World were the three great immortal worlds that could give birth to a 20-year-old Silver Bone expert, but the Devil World, Demon World and Heaven Immortal World were the top three great worlds among the 9 worlds. The experts of any one of these worlds were enough to wipe out all the experts of the other 6 great immortal worlds combined. He pondered for a moment and immediately gave an order to a few elders of Extreme Yin Gate. Then, led by Old Monster GMO, a few old monsters of Extreme Yin Gate steered 3 ships each and besieged the Grand Formation on 3 sides of Ning City. The disciples of Extreme Yin Gate weren't flying corpses, nor did they have demon mounts. Vein-opening cultivators couldn't fly, so they could only form a formation on the ships to attack. Old Devil Purple Een didn't notice that when he gave the order to attack the Grand Formation of Ning City, Tian Yitzi, the master of Heavenly Tao sect, revealed a strange sneer on his face. From the black coffin on his back, an old voice sneered in a low voice. Soon, the more people die, the better, the more corpse chi there is. It's enough for me to complete the second transformation of the corpse devil transformation. If I succeed, not only will I regain my nascent soul cultivation base, I will also have an immortal body. Old Monster GMO sat steadily on the ship. He was responsible for attacking the north gate of Ning City. His eyes swept across Ning City indifferently, revealing an extremely disdainful look. Nascent Realm Grand Formation. Unfortunately, it's just a dead formation and doesn't seem to have any offensive force. I would like to see how many times this dead formation of yours can withstand the attacks of 1,000 disciples of my GMO palace. Attack. However, before he could give the order to attack, an orange-yellow formation light immediately rose 100 miles above Ning City. Immediately, all the ships of Heavenly Tao sect, including the ship of Heavenly Tao sect, began to fall. Forbidden flight. Insignificant trick, pass this old man's order. Fire the spiritual artillery cannons and destroy this formation light. The spiritual artillery cannons were more expensive than the spiritual arrows. One shot would cost 2,000 immortal jades. Each ship of Extreme Yin Gate was equipped with 5 cannons. If the 3 ships fired the cannons at the same time, it would cost them 30,000 immortal jades. On the ship that was watching the battle from afar, Old Devil Purple Een revealed a look of heartache. 30,000 immortal jades was a huge figure to him. If it wasn't to capture Ning Fan alive, he would never be willing to fire the spiritual artillery cannons. He wasn't Ning Fan. He wouldn't burn money for fun. However, when he thought that he had only lost 30,000 immortal jades, while Heavenly Tao sect had lost 6,000 disciples, Old Devil Purple Een rejoiced. Before this, he had never thought that he would have to pay such a heavy price to attack a mere Ning City. The 15 cannonballs didn't disperse the forbidden space formation light, but at least it thinned the formation light a little. Although the forbidden space formation light still existed, it was barely enough to stop the ships from falling. However, the ships were swaying in the air, and it was extremely inconvenient for them to move, so it still affected them quite a bit. Old Monster GMO shook his clothes and stared at the second defensive formation light of Ning City with a gloomy look. The forbidden flight formation light had blocked the attack. Now, all they needed to do was to break this defensive formation light, past this old man's order. The 3,000 disciples of GMO Palace, Wuchang Palace and Nether Ghost Palace are to summon the body-protecting Yin Pearl and use it to break the formation of Ning City. As soon as the order came out, the 3,000 disciples of the three ships revealed a look of heartache. What? We actually have to use the body-protecting Yin Pearl that we have refined for many years. The body-protecting Yin Pearl was a concealed weapon that matched the cultivation technique of extreme Yin Gate. It was shaped like an apricot seed and was refined inside the body. Cultivators of the same realm would often be ambushed by the disciples of extreme Yin Gate. The power of the Yin Pearl was extremely strong, but it could only be used for a few attacks. After a few attacks, the magical power would be depleted and the cultivator would need to refine it back into the body. The body-protecting Yin Pearl was usually used as a life-saving measure for the disciples of extreme Yin Gate, but today, Old Monster GMO had ordered all the disciples to use their life-saving measure to attack a grand formation. There should be a slight chance of breaking the defensive formation light with 3,000 Yin Pearls, but in that case, the hard work of these vein-opening disciples over the years would be wasted. Each of the disciples was dissatisfied, but when Old Monster GMO glanced at them, no one dared to disobey. They had no choice but to spit out the Yin Pearls one by one, preparing to attack. From afar, Old Devil Purple Yin revealed a gratified smile when he saw Old Monster GMO being so sensible. He wasn't willing to use the spiritual artillery cannon to break the formation. The formation needed immortal jades to maintain and the cannon fire needed immortal jades. The so-called breaking of the formation was just using immortal jades to smash immortal jades. Whoever had more immortal jades would win. Old Monster GMO had seen through Old Devil Purple Yin's thoughts. He catered to Old Devil Purple Yin's liking by letting his disciples use the Yin Pearls to break the formation, saving money for Old Devil Purple Yin. In Purple Yin's view, this kind of flattery was extremely useful. If Ning City is breached, GMO will be given a merit. Old Devil Purple Yin stood on the top of the ship, looking down at Ning City and sneered. In his opinion, the attack of 3,000 Yin Pearls would definitely break Ning City today. Chapter 133. On the ship, nearly 3,000 disciples of extreme Yin Gate opened their mouths and spat out gloomy Yin beads from their dantian. Extreme Yin Gate was a first-rate evil sect after all. Since the disciples of the sect had made up their minds to attack, their expressions immediately turned fierce. Under GMO's command, 3,000 Yin beads were shot out at the same time. With a sharp sound of ice, they collided with the formation light. This would be known as the death match between devils and Yu in the national ceremony of Yu country in the future. As soon as the battle began, it immediately became white-hot. A single Yin bead couldn't threaten a harmonious spirit expert, but 3,000 Yin beads attacking three sides at the same time. Even the formation light of the nascent realm grand formation began to be corroded by the baleful Yin Qi. Fortunately, there were immortal jades in each formation eye to replenish the formation power. So, after one round of attack, the grand formation didn't suffer any damage except for a slight weakening of its light. Even so, Old Monster GMO heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the Yin beads of 3,000 disciples were indeed able to break the grand formation. He was rather nervous before this. 3,000 disciples and 3,000 Yin beads shouldn't be a problem for them to withstand 5 rounds of attack. He would like to see if 5 rounds of attack could take down Ning City. Continue to attack the city. Under his command, 3,000 Yin beads dragged a long Yin light and collided with the formation light, producing a series of intertwining loud noises. That power was like a magical treasure used to attack a city. It wasn't the small Yin beads, but the cannon fire of a spirit cannon. After the second round of attacks, the forbidden space formation was completely shattered, and cracks started to appear on the defensive formation. Ning Fan's expression didn't change at all when he saw the attacks. He was waiting for the enemy to exhaust their strength and launch a full-force attack. At that time, he would activate the anti-shock formation light. A dot of starlight flickered on his glabella. Just as Tian Yizhi expected, this star was one of the great benefits that Ning Fan obtained when he broke through the Silver Bone realm. Each star of a fiend god contained an innate ability. As the number of stars increased, the number of abilities would increase and the power of the individual abilities would also increase. A fiend god of the Silver Bone realm could at most cultivate 1 star. A fiend god of the Golden Body realm could at most cultivate 2 stars. In ancient times, there were fiend gods who refined divine treasures and devil treasures in the stars. The effect was 10 times stronger than the refinement in the Dantian. Naturally, only primordial mystical weapons could be placed into the star for refinement. If someone could see through the starlight, they would discover that the shadow of a starlight sword was immersed in countless lightning bolts within the star on Ning Fan's glabella. The immemorial mystical weapon he had absorbed into the first star was called the Separation Slayer, and the innate ability activated by the first star was called Thunder Manipulation. The first star of the Fiend God realm was similar to the vein-opening realm of cultivators. Most of them would determine the attribute of the Fiend God realm, and the attribute of the Fiend God realm that Ning Fan activated was lightning. In ancient times, only a few immortals who were blessed by the heavens could activate the Royal Thunder Star. In the ancient Heavenly Court's Thunder Division, there were even a few thunder gods whose power shook the world. As for devils, they would definitely not be able to activate the Star of Imperial Thunder because thunder was the punishment of heaven and the blessing of God. Without divinity, there would be no thunder. After condensing the Star of Imperial Thunder, Ning Fan was even more convinced that his yin-yang devil vein was a strange devil vein that cultivated both fiend god and divine dual cultivation. In terms of power, this devil vein might not be as overbearing as the sun divine vein, as strange as the desolate cursed devil vein, and as hard to kill as the undead devil vein, but compared to other devil veins, it was obviously more mysterious. Ning Fan faintly felt that the only devil vein that could cultivate both fiend god and divine dual cultivation was the yin-yang devil vein. The ancient Chaos Great Emperor who cultivated both fiend god and divine dual cultivation might not be famous in ancient times, but this yin-yang devil vein contained the great Tao of heaven and earth. As for the dual cultivation of the yin-yang locket, Ning Fan could understand that the ancient Chaos Great Emperor first activated his divinity and used the yin-yang locket's plucking function to experience his desires and temper his devil heart. As for why the yin-yang locket could only restrain women but not men, perhaps the ancient Chaos Great Emperor had his own difficulties and reasons. Ning Fan's eyes flickered. With his Star of Imperial Thunder and his Silver Bone Body refining technique, he could fight against ordinary nascent soul cultivators without losing, but it wouldn't be easy for him to win. His speed couldn't keep up and the gap between his magical power was too huge. The reason why he wasn't defeated was because of his strength. If Tian Yizhi wasn't acting strangely, Ning Fan might have killed him with a punch when he was hugging Suqiu and sent out the 4 guards of Ning City, as well as the experts of Sinister Sparrow Sect and Fire Cloud Sect to help from the dark. However, even though Tian Yizhi's strength was comparable to a nascent soul cultivator, he couldn't injure Tian Yizhi severely. Moreover, Tian Yizhi's 3 corpse pupils and black coffin made Ning Fan feel a sense of danger. All these oddities made Ning Fan come up with a guess, but this guess needed to be verified, otherwise, it would be a variable in this battle. Ning Fan's eyes fell on the Grand Formation, feeling slightly hesitant. The Grand Formation of Ning City was a nascent realm Grand Formation. It had a total of 972 formation eyes, but each of them was only filled with 100 immortal jades. More immortal jades could be placed in the formation eyes to enhance its defensive power, but it wasn't necessary because Ning Fan had never decided to fight against Extreme Yin Gate and Heavenly Dao Sect with a mere nascent realm Grand Formation. This recoil formation was the first strike against Extreme Yin Gate. His original plan was to send out all the experts after the recoil and it would be a life-and-death battle. But now, all the plans needed to be changed. Young master, do you think it's time to counterattack? If the grand formation is broken. Nanyang Zi's old eyes were filled with worry. Wait. It's not the right time yet. I have something that I need to confirm. Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. The third round, the fourth round, all the way to the ninth round of attacks, Ning Fan was still calm and collected. At this moment, the immortal jades in the formation eyes were almost depleted. Outside the city walls, the formation light had turned illusory and was covered with cracks, as if it would break at any time. At this moment, Ning Fan ordered. Nangong, get ready to activate the formation. After the ninth round of attacks, the magical power of each of the disciples of Extreme Yin Gate was almost depleted. It wasn't easy for them to use the Yin Pearl to attack with their vein-opening cultivation base, and the power of the Yin Pearl was about to be depleted. There were even a few unlucky ones who died from the backlash of the Yin Pearl due to the lack of magical power. This made each and every disciple of Extreme Yin Gate cautious, fearing that they would follow the footsteps of those unlucky ones. Old Monster GMO didn't pay too much attention to the exhaustion of the magical power of the disciples. His task was to break the grand formation of Ning City. As for the rest, he only needed all the experts above Harmonious Spirit Realm to attack. It would be more than enough to annihilate all the cultivators in Ning City. If it was just an ordinary gold core expert, perhaps he would be afraid of being besieged by vein-opening cultivators, but all the gold core old monsters on the scene were experienced in killing. Moreover, there were two old ancestor-level experts, Purple Yin and Tian Yi. Vein-opening cultivators wouldn't be able to threaten the old ancestor unless they used a joint attack formation. This is the last round of attack. Each and every one of you will use your blood essence to maximize the power of the Yin Pearl and destroy this formation. Ji Mo's order couldn't be rejected. Each and every disciple of Extreme Yin Gate had a pale complexion. They bit the tip of their tongues and spat out their blood essence onto the Yin Pearl. Immediately, the Yin Pearl that was emitting murderous chi began to rotate rapidly, faintly emitting a strange bloody light. Its power seemed to be a few times stronger than when it was at its peak. Ji Mo's eyes fell on the grand formation and sneered. This was the last attack. After this attack, the grand formation of Ning City would be broken, and Ning City would be annihilated. GMO even had the idea to not only break the grand formation, but also to use the remaining power of the Yin Pearl to attack the devil cultivators of Ning City. It would be best if they could cause some casualties. Do it. Rays of cold bloody light bombarded on the formation light. Its power wasn't any weaker than the spiritual arrows. The fragmented defensive formation light shattered with a crisp shattering sound. The blood-red light didn't lose any of its momentum as it splashed down towards Ning City, bringing with it a filthy aura, like a huge red cloth, covering Ning City. Under the influence of this filthy chi, many of the devil cultivators in the four armies of Ning City began to feel dizzy. The three god armies were fine, but among the Southern House battle guards, some of the cultivators who had just joined Ning City had never seen such danger before. Each and every one of them revealed a look of horror. If the bloody light touched their bodies, it would be hard for them to survive. Let's run. A few of the new devil cultivators said in a trembling voice. But immediately, they heard Situ's cold, sword-like voice. Those who flee, die. After being shaken by Situ's sword chi, all the devil cultivators felt a chill in their hearts. How would they dare to flee? They could only hope that the leaders of Ning City had a way to deal with this bloody light. The commotion in Ning City caused GMO to be overjoyed. The grand formation of Ning City had been breached. Ning City was definitely going to be destroyed. It seemed like the people in Ning City were unstable. To them, this was definitely a piece of good news. Old Devil Purple Yin's eyes were smiling as he looked at Old Monster GMO approvingly. Apparently, he was very satisfied with the latter's ability to break the grand formation. 100 miles away, dozens of your country's righteous and devil-old monsters were using their spirit sense to sense the situation of the battle. They shook their heads. As for the sect master of Purple Light Sect, he let out a deep sigh. The grand formation has been broken. Ning City is finished. Old Devil Purple Yin is already extremely powerful. Heavenly Dao Sect Master is even more terrifying. Even Suqiu Xianzi of Great Void Sect isn't a match for him. Apart from the two of them, there are dozens of gold core old monsters involved in this battle. How can Ning City resist the attack of a group of experts? As for this Black Devil Ning, he hasn't shown himself yet. Could it be that he's afraid of the two powerful sects? Ning City will be annihilated. Black Devil Ning is, after all, a fourth revolution pill master. If he had been famous for a long time, he certainly wouldn't be afraid of two gold core old ancestors. Even if he's not a match for them, given the network of a fourth revolution pill master, perhaps there will be nascent soul experts from other countries who will be willing to help. However, the fact that Black Devil Ning hasn't shown himself has reminded me of a rumor. I've heard that when Ning City was first built, many people said that Black Devil Ning is revered Ning of Sinister Sparrow Sect, Ning Fan. At that time, no one believed this rumor. Now, I feel that there's a 10% possibility that revered Ning is Black Devil Ning. If that's the case, everything makes sense, but a fourth revolution pill master who isn't even 20 years old, how is this possible? Elder Tong Bien of Corpse Seizing Sect said in contemplation. This person had an extraordinary mind and was good at deduction. His words made many people ponder. The Battle of Ning City had begun, but Black Devil Ning still hadn't shown himself. Could it be that Black Devil Ning was really an 18-years-old youth? Did this mean that the entire Yu country had been deceived by Ning Fan? No, even Elder Tong Bien who came up with this conclusion only had 10% certainty, and this 10% was based on countless facts and inferences. The other 90% of the reason was because Ning Fan was too young. Perhaps Ning City has a way to deal with the blood light, if you are Black Devil Ning. Tong Bien's eyes stared at Ning Fan secretly with uncertainty. The murderous blood light descended upon the vast sky of Ning City. Its power was getting stronger and stronger. Lu Nanzi revealed a pained expression. Many of the fire maple trees near Ning City had begun to wither because of the tainted blood qi. Young master. He looked at Ning Fan pleadingly. Just a little bit more. Ning Fan's spirit sense was still observing Tian Yizi. He found that Tian Yizi's expression was calm all the time. It was as if he would be happy if Ning City was destroyed. It was as if he would benefit from the backlash of the formation and the death of Extreme Yin Gate. Sure enough. Nangong, activate the formation. Ning Fan revealed a look of pity. He could see through Tian Yizi's trick. If he killed the disciple of Extreme Yin Gate, he was afraid that Tian Yizi would gain great benefits, but now that the blood light had descended, he had no choice but to counterattack. The arrow was already on the bowstring. It had to be released. Yes. Nangong's eyes flashed with murderous intent. At this moment, a shocking change made the Purple Light Sect Master, who was sighing, choke on his breath and couldn't sigh anymore. His eyes turned cold. In his hand, a formation order compass began to rotate rapidly. Activate the formation. In an instant, a huge formation pattern that stretched for hundreds of miles emerged on the ground outside of Ning City, emitting a vicissitude qi. Rays of glaze-like formation light rose and spread out. In mid-air, countless starlight vortexes emerged one after another, accompanied by the roar of the ancient giants. The desolate murderous qi shocked all the cultivators in Ning City. No one had expected that there was a third formation hidden in Ning City. Although this formation was only at the nascent realm, it was too shocking. No one could recognize the origin of this grand formation, but no one could remain calm under the roar of the giants. The starlight vortexes reversed the direction of the attacks of the Yin Pearls with a strange force of law. At the same time, the whistling blood light turned around and shot back to the ship. Moreover, the power of the attack was increased by 30%. The sudden reversal of the attack had caught the disciples of Extreme Een Gate, who had exhausted their magical power, by surprise. On the ship, Old Monster GMO and the other elders of Extreme Een Gate widened their eyes in disbelief. What's going on? Why is there a third formation light? At this moment, Old Devil Purple Yin's heart shuddered. He realized that the grand formation in front of him was extremely similar to a terrifying grand formation recorded in the ancient records of his sect. Could it be, the Star Vortex ancient formation? Is it an immortal void grand formation? Not good, GMO, quickly activate the defensive grand formation of the ship. However, Old Devil Purple Yin's words were still a step too late. The counterattack came too fast and too unexpected. Almost in an instant, 2 of the 3 attacking ships had suffered a devastating blow, resulting in a lot of casualties. Under the blood light, the disciples of Extreme Een Gate who didn't have a strong cultivation base directly turned into a pool of blood and died. Chapter 134. Only Old Monster GMO, who was quick-witted and cunning, immediately activated the defensive formation of the ship when he saw that the situation was bad. As for the other 2 ships, they had already suffered a devastating blow before the elders guarding the ships could react. The blood light of the Een Pearl could even shatter a nascent realm grand formation. When its power was increased by 30%, it would be a nightmare for the disciples of Extreme Een sect who had exhausted all of their magical power. The disciples on the 2 ships didn't even have the time to scream before they were devoured by the blood light, turning into pus and blood, turning into a foul stench. The ship that was made of metal essence was corroded by the blood light, forming countless holes. The ship was already half destroyed. Among the 13 harmonious spirit elders guarding the ship, 9 of them were killed by the blood light. Only 4 of them escaped with serious injuries. As for the 2 gold core elders guarding the ship, although they escaped from the blood light, they were also in a sorry state and suffered serious injuries. The ship that had lost control fell to the ground, smashing countless stones and soil. Its light dimmed. Those disciples of Extreme Een sect who were lucky enough to survive the blood light were also killed by the fall of the ship. It was a tragic sight to behold. At the same time, streams of invisible corpse chi were spreading around Ning City. The sudden reversal of the situation shocked the old monsters of the righteous and evil sects who were watching from afar. They couldn't imagine that there was a grand formation in this world that could reflect attacks. In Ning City, including the 3 black demon armies, there was dead silence. Most of them believed that Ning Fan had a way to deal with the blood light, but they never thought that it would be such a strange method. A huge doubt arose in everyone's mind. What kind of formation was this? How could it have the heaven-defying effect of reflecting attacks? Unfortunately, Ning Fan wouldn't answer their doubts. He looked at the gradually fading formation light and shook his head gently, feeling a little regretful. As Purple Een had expected, this formation was an immortal void realm formation. Unfortunately, it was only an incomplete formation and only had the power for 1 attack. Even with Ning Fan's means, he could only arrange a nascent realm formation to borrow a trace of the rebound force. The grades of formations, starting from Spirit Realm, were Core Realm, Nascent Realm, Transformation Realm and Void Realm. A Void Realm Grand Formation was an extremely profound formation. It was further divided into Mortal Void and Immortal Void. A Mortal Void Grand Formation like the Mountain and River Reversal Formation could injure a Void Fragmentation Realm expert. However, that was all it could do. A powerful Void Fragmentation Realm expert might not necessarily be afraid of a Mortal Void Grand Formation. However, the might of an Immortal Void Realm Grand Formation was something that even a 9th Heavenly Layer Void Fragmentation Realm expert or a Rogue Immortal who had just broken through to the 9th Heavenly Layer and failed to become an Immortal would find it hard to resist the might of an Immortal Void Realm Grand Formation. The word, immortal, was enough to kill all the cultivators in the 7 realms of cultivation. The star vortex ancient formation was one of the rarest immortal void formations in the ancient times. In ancient chaos's memory, it was a very high-grade formation. The trace of star vortex power made ancient chaos gasp in admiration. Unfortunately, this formation was incomplete. However, it was enough to deal with a mere vein-opening cultivator. The sun is the saint, the moon is the emperor and the star is the fiend god. Ning Fan stared at the dissipating star vortex and stroked the star on his glabella with his finger. Stars are fiend gods. The divine ability of fiend gods is the manifestation of stars. Celestial Emperor implied the word emperor. Could it be that the Celestial Emperor's divine ability was manifested from the moon? As for the saint, what was that? Ancient Chaos's memory didn't mention anything about this. Perhaps Ancient Chaos didn't know about it. Or perhaps he was following Emperor Sun's decree and didn't dare to tell his descendants. Different from Ning Fan's cold thoughts, the tragic death of 2,000 extreme Yin disciples made old devil Purple Yin burn with anger and roar. As for Tian Yitzi, the corner of his mouth curved into an evil arc, as if everything was within his expectation. The bloody scene made little Jiha feel like vomiting. Even Suchio, the famous old ancestor of Yu country, couldn't bear to watch it. However, none of these could touch Ning Fan's heart. His expression was still cold. Since the day he first met the old devil, he had seen all kinds of bloody scenes. His body stood still and his spirit sense swept across Tian Yitzi. Not even a trace of the latter's expression escaped Ning Fan's observation. Tian Yitzi's qi became thicker after absorbing the corpse qi of 2,000 disciples. This wasn't an illusion. And the trace of qi in the black coffin seemed to be even more dangerous. Ning Fan's heart sank. This person must have the immemorial evil vein, a rare kind of evil vein. Corpse evil vein. Sure enough, this Tian Yitzi isn't a human, but a living corpse. At this moment, the master must be hiding in the black coffin. This person had used the corpse transformation technique to turn all the experts of Heavenly Tao's sect into corpses, from the sect master to the disciples. To be able to turn a half-step nascent soul realm expert into a living corpse, the master's cultivation base must be at the nascent soul realm. However, there must be a reason why this person didn't show himself or make a move despite having a nascent soul cultivation base. If he wasn't seriously injured, he must be at the critical juncture of corpse devil transformation. Corpse devil transformation, the first transformation is to become a corpse, the second transformation is to become a devil, and the third transformation is to become an immortal. This person must be between the first and second transformation of corpse devil transformation. I can't let him absorb more corpse qi. Otherwise, if he breaks through the second transformation and becomes a corpse devil. At this moment, Ning Fan's expression didn't change, but his heart was filled with fear because he was 70% sure that his guess was correct. Thinking of the two words corpse devil, Ning Fan couldn't help but think of the female corpse who was still caressing the lid of the coffin in his cauldron ring. There were countless descendants of fiend god in the heaven and earth, and the nascent soul expert hiding in the black coffin might be the first descendant of a fiend god that he would have a hard time fighting against. However, so what if he was a fiend god? So what if he was a nascent soul expert? So what if he was a Bone Sovereign? Wasn't Bone Sovereign's clone also killed by Ning Fan? Ning Fan's eyes flickered with cold light and ordered. Nangong, inform the experts of Sinister Sparrow sect and Fire Cloud sect to reinforce them through the fire vein. Those below Harmonious Spirit Realm shouldn't get involved in this battle. The fewer the people, the better. This, yes. Nangong hesitated for a moment, then immediately answered and took out a sound-transmitting stone to inform Ning Fan. The original plan was to send countless experts of Fire Cloud sect and Sinister Sparrow sect to reinforce them through the fire vein, giving Extreme Yin Gate and Heavenly Tao sect a fatal blow. But now, it seemed like there was an unforeseen change in the plan, causing the young master to order all cultivators below Harmonious Spirit Realm to stay out of the battle. What made Nangong admire the most was the method that Ning Fan came up with to pass through the fire vein. In order to help Ning City without being noticed, Ning Fan had ordered his men to dig out hundreds of miles of underground fire vein, using the spiritual qi of the earth vein to conceal their qi, allowing them to reinforce the city. Nangong couldn't think of such a method. His experience might be richer than Ning Fan's, but his wisdom seemed to be lacking. Is it the sect master of Sinister Sparrow sect? Something has changed. Nangong said in a low voice in a soundproof formation. Old demon Purple Een was enraged. He glared at old monster GMO, as if he wanted to devour him whole. 2,000 disciples died in vain because of GMO's carelessness. No, the one who should be blamed was Ning Fan. Good. 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 Ning Fan, if you have the guts, pass down the order of my sect. All elders above Harmonious Spirit Realm are to massacre Ning City at all costs. Purple Een was like an enraged lion. He turned into a ray of light and rushed towards the city wall. He was in charge of capturing Ning Fan while the other elders were in charge of killing to vent their anger. Many elders of Extreme Een Gate had blood-red eyes. Some of their juniors were among the disciples who died tragically just now. 42 Harmonious Spirit experts and 7 Gold Core experts rushed towards Ning City in a ray of light. Except for Tian Yitzi, all the experts of Heavenly Tao sect remained motionless like refined corpses. Tian Yitzi, who was about to kill, suddenly halted his steps. His vertical eye flashed with slight surprise as he looked at the underground fire vein. This is. Tian Yitzi's eyes flashed with astonishment, but Purple Een, who was focused on capturing Ning Fan, didn't notice the change underground. The hatred of the 17 concubines being taken away, the hatred of the tragic death of 2,000 disciples, and the future of controlling a 4th Revolution Dan Master to dominate Yu country after capturing Ning Fan. All kinds of thoughts reverberated in Purple Yin's heart, turning into a trace of joy from extreme anger. Purple Een took the lead and rushed to 100 zhang away from the city wall. Those devil cultivators who came to protect Ning Fan were swept away by a cold wind with a flick of his sleeve. As for the magical treasures of the devil cultivators, they were all absorbed by Purple Yin's purple alms bowl. Die for this old man. He shouted loudly and spurted out a mouthful of Dan Revolution Qi from 100 zhang away. His 5 fingers turned into a claw and grasped at Ning Fan from a distance. Immediately, his vigorous magical power turned into a cold wind. A trace of soul power was extracted from the cold wind and turned into an ethereal and vicissitude wind claw that clawed at Ning Fan. Nascent soul magical art, wind soul claw. This claw was a nascent soul magical art. It extracted a trace of wind soul power and evolved it into a claw. It was a piece of cake to capture a gold core cultivator. Except for old ancestor-level experts, ordinary gold core old monsters couldn't even touch the edge of the wind soul claw, so how could they resist it? Purple Een believed that Ning Fan couldn't escape from this claw because he wasn't a half-step nascent soul old monster. The only thing that worried Purple Een was that Ning Fan had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. If he escaped, it would be troublesome. However, out of Purple Yin's expectation, Ning Fan didn't have any intention of escaping. An icy rainbow flashed under his feet. Ning Fan didn't dodge or evade, but rushed towards the wind claw. His eyes flashed with cold light and starlight flashed on his glabella. He slapped the wind soul claw with a thunderous sound. Imperial lightning. His 5 fingers grabbed the wind soul claw, causing it to lose its balance and explode. This scene was completely out of Purple Yin's expectation. He didn't expect Ning Fan to have the means to attack the ethereal soul claw. What made him even more shocked was that Ning Fan's palm force could shatter the claw mark formed by a nascent soul magical art. To be able to shatter a nascent soul magical art, is this kid really a silver bone cultivator? Not good. Purple Een didn't believe in Ning Fan's body refining technique before, but now, he had no choice but to believe it. Because of his carelessness, Ning Fan had forced him to a few meters away from him. Facing the wind from the palm, Purple Yin's expression changed dramatically. Silver bone. It can't be wrong. As the palm approached him, Purple Yin realized that this palm was too terrifying. He couldn't use his body to block it. In a flash, he opened his mouth without hesitation and spat out a bowl-sized cold bead. Then, he shook his sleeve and took out a handful of red sand, rolling it towards Ning Fan. That bead was the Yin bead that Purple Yin had refined for countless years. It was a treasure formed by fusing it with the gold core in his body. The signature cultivation method of extreme Yin Gate was to refine the Yin bead. After breaking through to the gold core realm, one would fuse the Yin bead with the gold core and cultivate the gold core into the strongest magical treasure. The power of a Yin bead was stronger than ordinary peak high-grade magical treasures. It could even trigger a trace of supreme-grade magical treasure. As for the red sand, it was called consciousness-shattering sand. It contained blood qi and was specialized in attacking a cultivator's sea of consciousness. In Purple Yin's opinion, the Yin bead was enough to resist Ning Fan's attack. As for the consciousness-shattering sand, it wouldn't be a problem for it to shatter Ning Fan's sea of consciousness. After all, no matter how strong Ning Fan's body was, his sea of consciousness was still weak. However, all his means were extremely ridiculous in Ning Fan's eyes. The consciousness-shattering sand was smashed by Ning Fan's palm without any resistance. As for the gold core Yin bead that was comparable to a supreme-grade magical treasure, it was caught by Ning Fan's palm. His eyes turned cold and he clenched it hard. The gold core was shattered. Ah! Old Devil Purple Yin let out a wail. His gold core was shattered. His cultivation base immediately fell to late gold core realm, and there were signs of it continuing to fall. He looked at Ning Fan with extreme fear. He had never expected that Ning Fan's body would be so strong. It seemed to be much stronger than the rumored Silver Bone realm. Moreover, the consciousness-shattering sand that could shatter a cultivator's sea of consciousness had no effect on Ning Fan at all. Purple Yin didn't know that Ning Fan was just a white-robed incarnation without a sea of consciousness. How could it shatter? Even if Ning Fan had a sea of consciousness, how could it be shattered by the consciousness-shattering sand given the strength of his sword consciousness? As for the method of fusing the Yin bead with the gold core, it was indeed mysterious and could enhance the strength of the gold core, but Purple Yin had neglected the essentials. The founder of Extreme Yin Gate created the method of strengthening the gold core not to let the cultivators use the gold core as a magical treasure, but to enhance the defense of the gold core, to prevent the gold core from being damaged when the gold core cultivators of the sect fought. At the same time, it laid the foundation for the gold core cultivators to form their nascent soul. The stronger the gold core, the higher the chance of forming the nascent soul. This method of fusing the gold core made Ning Fan's eyes lit up. Unfortunately, using the gold core as a magical treasure was perhaps the biggest mistake of Old Devil Purple Yin's life. The gold core shattered. Purple Yin spurted out a mouthful of blood. He forcefully suppressed his rapidly declining cultivation and retreated. Run! He must run. He absolutely couldn't catch Ning Fan today. On the contrary, if he didn't suppress his declining cultivation, his cultivation would fall to intermediate gold core realm in another hour or even further. However, Ning Fan wouldn't let him escape even if he wanted to. Ning Fan turned into an icy rainbow and chased after him. He flicked his sleeve and took out a peak middle-grade long whip, lashing it at Purple Yin. A peak middle-grade magical treasure shouldn't be a threat to Purple Yin, but at this moment, he was suppressing his declining cultivation and driving the immortal cloud to escape at full speed. He didn't care about Ning Fan's sneak attack. After being lashed by Ning Fan's whip, his magical force immediately loosened and his cultivation began to decline again. Although he wasn't seriously injured, his chi was in chaos. Ning Fan! Don't go too far. Purple Yin roared angrily. So what if I'm bullying you? Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. The second whip came, lashing Purple Yin down from the immortal cloud. A starlight appeared on his glabella. Ning Fan raised his palm and stepped on the icy rainbow, preparing to give Purple Yin a fatal blow. Purple Yin, who was falling from the sky and losing his magical force, revealed a look of fear and confusion. He had come to Ning City once before. That day, he saw the fake Black Devil and Ning Fan, but he didn't pay attention to them. Ning Fan was just a harmonious spirit expert at that time, not worthy of his attention. Today, however, he had witnessed Ning Fan's full strength in Ning City. He couldn't resist. Even if he was cautious, he would only have a 50-50 chance of winning against Ning Fan. Due to his carelessness, his gold core was destroyed by Ning Fan. The current Purple Yin could only be defeated or even killed by Ning Fan. Ning Fan, don't force me. If you do, I will self-detonate and perish together with you. If you let me go, I am willing to share everything in Extreme Yin Gate with you. Purple Yin's eyes were filled with madness. His dream of dominating Yu country had been shattered. At this moment, he only wanted to protect himself. All these moves happened in a split second. The elders who followed Purple Yin and prepared to massacre Ning City were all dumbfounded by Purple Yin's defeat. They didn't expect that Purple Yin would use a half-threatening and half-begging tone to beg Ning Fan. Each of the elders stopped in the air as if there were nails under their feet. How would they dare to massacre Ning City? All the cultivators who were watching the battle were dumbfounded when they saw Ning Fan, who looked so weak, break his wind claw and gold core, defeating Old Devil Purple Yin. Before this, no one would have thought that Old Devil Purple Yin, who dominated Yu country, would be forced into a corner by a newly advanced revered devil of Sinister Sparrow sect. From today onwards, Ning Fan's status would rise to the level of an old ancestor, or even higher. Old Devil Purple Yin begged for mercy and threatened Ning Fan. But in Ning Fan's eyes, his begging and threats turned into a trace of mockery. How could he let Purple Yin go? Nurturing a tiger would only bring about trouble. Almost at the same time, the underground fire vein of Ning City suddenly burst into flames. Experts from the fire vein flew out one after another. Each of them had a terrifying aura. A loud and clear voice resounded in the sky. "Little friend, hand over Purple Yin's life to this old man." "All right." Sensing the familiar and vigorous aura of this voice, Ning Fan's eyes became relaxed. He withdrew his palm wind and the traveling light. He didn't care who killed Purple Yin. In short, Purple Yin must die. Letting that person kill Purple Yin was a promise he had made, wasn't it? The leader of this group of experts who suddenly appeared was Sinister Sparrow and old ancestor Jingzhua. The one who spoke was undoubtedly Jingzhua. As soon as they appeared, Sinister Sparrow immediately led a group of gold core experts to surround the elders of Extreme Yin Gate. As for old ancestor Jingzhua, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. The regret of his life turned into a palm of lightning, which carried a tyrannical aura comparable to that of a nascent soul realm expert. It heavily hit Purple Yin's back. The lightning roared and pierced through his heart. Lightning palm. It was the lightning palm that contained Jingzhua's murderous intent for hundreds of years. Purple Yin, I have waited for the opportunity to kill you for too long, too long. You, die. A palm of lightning shattered Old Devil Purple Yin's body. His soul struggled bitterly in the lightning, but Jingzhua didn't have the intention to let his soul enter samsara. Purple Yin's soul couldn't believe that he couldn't see through Jingzhua's cultivation base. If he wasn't severely injured, he wouldn't have been killed by Jingzhua's lightning palm. But most likely, he wouldn't be Jingzhua's opponent anymore. You've broken through. Purple Yin didn't even have time to question him before he was struck by the lightning with all the questions he had. A miserable shriek resounded in the sky. The shriek was like a bucket of cold water splashing on the hearts of every onlooker. Each of their eyes swept past Ning Fan and Jingzhua. All of them were filled with dread. But that wasn't the end of old ancestor Jing Zhua's tyrannical strength. The other elders of Extreme Yin Gate were besieged by the other experts of Sinister Sparrow Sect and Fire Cloud Sect. Revered Black Yen Bai, former Revered White Bai Faden, Fire Cloud Sect's Buquangfen, each of them was a gold-core old monster who had been famous for a long time. Every time they used their magical treasures, they could take away the lives of several harmonious spirit experts. In just a few breaths, all the harmonious spirit experts of Extreme Yin Gate were dead. As for Jing Zhua, after killing Purple Yin, the hatred in his eyes didn't diminish at all. With a flash of light, he blocked the path of retreat of 8 gold core experts of Extreme Yin Gate. Then, he waved his palm and threw out a fiery red dagger axe. With the magic power of nascent soul realm, the dagger axe turned into countless fiery lights and engulfed the 8 gold core experts. Apart from Old Monster GMO and the other 4 who paid a huge price to use their life-saving means to escape the flames, the remaining 3 gold core old monsters were burned into ashes by the flames. All the experts who were watching the battle felt their hearts tremble at the same time. Those who were below the gold core realm couldn't resist Jing Zhua's qi. Those who were above the gold core realm revealed a look of horror. They could feel a trace of nascent soul qi from Jing Zhua's body. Deep shock appeared on their faces. After exchanging glances, all of them heaved a sigh of relief. They were shocked that the appearance of Sinister Sparrow Sect and Fire Cloud Sect was too unexpected. They were shocked that both the righteous and evil sects were helping Ning City at the same time. What was even more shocking was that old ancestor Jing Zhua seemed to have succeeded in forming his nascent soul, becoming a nascent soul cultivator. Jing Zhua has actually formed his nascent soul. Nascent soul, nascent soul. Even Bei Hongzi, who was 500 miles away, was shocked after hesitating for a while. He was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. But it couldn't be wrong. Jing Zhua could easily kill 3 gold core experts and injure 5 others. There was no other explanation other than breaking through to the nascent soul realm. Yu Country finally had its first nascent soul cultivator. Was Fire Cloud Sect going to unify Yu Country? Was it going to replace Great Void Sect and become the #1 sect of the righteous path? Bei Hongzi's heart was in a mess. He mocked himself inwardly. If Great Void Sect's master, Zhong Xianzi, knew about this, he wouldn't feel good. Then, something that made him even more dumbfounded happened. He thought that it was enough to shock him when he saw Ning Fan defeat Old Devil Purple Yin with just a few moves. He thought that Jing Zhua breaking through to the nascent soul realm was enough to shock him. But none of the shock was as shocking as the scene at this moment. After the awe-inspiring Jing Zhua killed Purple Yin and the 3 gold core experts, he didn't pursue the remaining evil cultivators. Instead, he stepped on the void and approached Ning Fan. When he was 3 zhang away from Ning Fan, he suddenly knelt down to the ground. I can't express my gratitude with words. From now on, Jing Zhua's life and death will be in revered Ning's hands. Today, all the cultivators who invaded Ning City, regardless of righteous or evil, will be Jing Zhua's archenemy and must be killed. A dignified nascent soul expert, an old monster who was going to unify Yu Country, actually knelt down in front of Ning Fan. Sinister Sparrow Sect's revered Ning killed Purple Yin with a palm strike and made Jing Zhua, a nascent soul expert, kneel down. Was this person really a youth who wasn't even 20 years old? Chapter 135. As for Extreme Yin's ship that had escaped far away, it didn't arouse Ning Fan's attention at all. Nangong and his men were already chasing after it. The only thing that he was afraid of was the person in the black coffin. Formidable enemy. Not only Jing Zhua and Sinister Sparrow, even the other Gold Core Realm cultivators were surprised. Extreme Yin Gate was destroyed, leaving only Heavenly Dao Sect. Although Tian Yitzi and the remaining Heavenly Dao cultivators weren't easy to deal with, they shouldn't be considered as formidable enemies, right? They had underestimated Heavenly Dao Sect. As if to prove Ning Fan's words, Tian Yitzi held a compass and looked at Ning Fan's direction with fiery eyes. The closer the compass was to Ning Fan, the more violently it rotated. At this moment, Tian Yitzi faced the sky and laughed. His voice was hoarse and gloomy, which was incompatible with all of this. The ancient corpse is on you. Good. This will save me the trouble of searching everywhere. This corpse is mine now. Hand over the corpse and I will give you a quick death. As for the other cultivators here, they will become my new refined corpses. At this moment, Tian Yitzi kept the compass and stood with his hands clasped behind his back, releasing his aura. This aura was only 30% of his original bodies, but it was only a little bit weaker than Jingshua's and much stronger than Sinister Sparrow's. Under this aura, the people around Ning City exclaimed in surprise. Tian Yitzi's aura was indeed extraordinary, but it wasn't as strong as old ancestor Jingshua. How bold of him to say that he would massacre all the cultivators here. Jingshua let out a cold humph and stepped forward. With each step, the aura grew stronger. His magical power had reached nascent soul realm. Although his aura hadn't reached that level yet, it was much stronger than ordinary old ancestors. Jingshua's aura suffocated by Fading and the others nearby, but when it reached Tian Yitzi, it was like a gentle breeze that didn't hurt him at all. Tian Yitzi only sneered. If your reliance is this false nascent cultivator, then I regret to announce that he can't save you all. Tian Yitzi's words were full of sarcasm. He performed a hand seal and the 44 harmonious spirit refined corpses beside him began to decay and burst into blood mist. The corpse chi mist rolled toward Tian Yitzi, and his aura suddenly rose. Gradually, it surpassed Jingshua and reached the level of an early nascent soul cultivator. At this moment, a strong gust of wind blew in the sky. Its momentum shook the clouds in the sky and caused the 5 elemental spiritual energies to become chaotic. This was the true aura of a nascent soul cultivator. It was enough to cause the world to change. The fighting intent in Buquanfan's eyes faded away and turned into fear. He found that Tian Yitzi's aura had surpassed his ancestors. Under such power, a dignified Jindan stage expert like him actually felt a trace of powerlessness. Hearing Tian Yitzi say that Jingshua was a fake nascent soul cultivator, the old monsters all looked at Jingshua with hesitant expressions. That's right. Due to some reasons, this old man isn't a true nascent soul cultivator. Jingshua's forehead was slightly oozing with cold sweat. He was in the center of Tian Yitzi's chi force. Although it was extremely uncomfortable, it wasn't enough to stop him. However, his words were like a bucket of cold water splashing on the hearts of all the cultivators. It turned out that old ancestor Jingshua whom everyone relied on was merely a false nascent soul cultivator, but Tian Yitzi's chi was even stronger than Jingshua's. Could it be that the so-called first nascent soul cultivator of Yu country hadn't broken through completely? Could it be that this seemingly disadvantaged Tian Yitzi was the true nascent soul cultivator? Each and every cultivator's eyes began to reveal fear towards Tian Yitzi. The strength of a nascent soul cultivator alone was enough to overturn a low-grade cultivation country. Even if they had Jingshua who was a fake nascent soul cultivator, he might not be a match for Tian Yitzi. They were afraid that they would be in danger today. At this juncture, Tian Yitzi sneered unceasingly. Everyone's fear made him despise them. This is 50% of my aura. Next, it's 70% of my aura. Tian Yitzi performed another incantation gesture. The bodies of the 8 gold core elders behind him also decayed and exploded into a mist of blood. After absorbing the blood mist and corpse chi, his chi rose again, almost reaching the peak of early nascent soul realm. Under the sweep of 70% of his aura, even Bai Fading and Yen Bai's chi and magical force were in disorder. Apart from Jingshua, Sinister Sparrow and Ning Fan, no one in the sky above Ning City could resist this aura. All of them sucked in a mouthful of cold air, their blood and chi surged crazily. As the vertical eye on Tian Yitzi's forehead flashed with blood-red light, the 4 gold core elders of Fire Cloud sect, including Bukwangfen, lost their composure and were invaded by the Heart Devil. I'm afraid this aura has already reached the peak of early nascent soul realm. This is only 70% of his aura. If he unleashes all of his aura, wouldn't it reach 100%? Even Jingzhua's expression changed drastically for the first time. He began to lose his composure under the pressure of Tian Yizhi. Strange, too strange. Even a nascent soul cultivator shouldn't be able to subdue me with just his aura. Could it be that Tian Yizhi had secretly used an illusion technique when he unleashed his aura? In an instant, Jingzhua and Sinister Sparrow exchanged a glance. They could see a trace of speculation in each other's eyes. Both of them nodded and unleashed their magical force at the same time. With a loud shout, their magical force surged, trying to suppress Tian Yizhi's illusion technique. Their combined magical force was so vast that it was comparable to an ordinary early nascent soul cultivator. For an illusion technique that they didn't know how to break, the only way to break it was to use a strong magical force to suppress it. Their method was correct, but their combined magical force was still inferior to Tian Yizhi's true body. They couldn't suppress the illusion technique. They could only make traces of red lines appear in the surrounding air, but they immediately disappeared without a trace. Those red lines seemed to be the foundation of the illusion technique. Unfortunately, although they could see the clues of the illusion technique, they still had no way to break it. Instead, because they recklessly used their magical force, a trace of red lines invaded their bodies, immediately causing their minds to be in chaos. Sinister Sparrow and Jingzhua's expression changed drastically. They didn't know what kind of filthy power these blood lines were, but it actually made them lose their composure that they had cultivated for thousands of years. What kind of illusion technique is this? When did he cast the technique? Both of them didn't know Tian Yizhi's method, but Ning Fan did. The brief appearance of the bloodlines just now made Ning Fan understand the secret of this illusion technique. The blood-colored ones were the evil thoughts stimulated by the third corpse pupil. They were extremely filthy and could confuse people's minds. The threads were the power of spirit sense. With the formless spirit sense, it wrapped and hid the evil thoughts. This was the foundation of the third corpse pupil technique. Spirit sense, it was spirit sense. Ning Fan had nothing to be afraid of. Enough. The star on his glabella flashed. The separation slayer sword that was originally refined in his glabella immediately turned into a ray of starlight and flew out, slashing left and right, destroying the spirit sense that was hidden in the surroundings. Pupil technique was the eyes, and the spirit was the spirit sense. If it was any other offensive pupil technique, a cultivator's sight would immediately be affected and it would be hard to break it. However, it was an illusion technique, especially a group illusion technique. As long as a clue was discovered, it might not necessarily be broken. After destroying all the spirit sense bloodlines, Ning Fan's eyes flickered with a cold light. He lifted the separation slayer sword and turned it into an icy rainbow, rushing towards Tian Yizhi. It seemed like no one could break Tian Yizhi's illusion technique except for him. Therefore, only he was qualified to fight Tian Yizhi. The corpse devil vein was indeed worthy of being able to cultivate the rare third corpse pupil. He was afraid that Tian Yizhi could even fight an intermediate nascent soul cultivator when he was at his peak. I'll have to trouble seniors and fellow Taoists to help me protect Ning City. I will fight this man alone. Jingzhua, Guo Qiaozi and the others retreated back to the city wall with lingering fear after hearing Ning Fan's words. The illusion technique just now was too thrilling, making them fear deeply. It seemed like Ning Fan was the only one who could fight Tian Yizhi today. That's a nascent soul old monster. Can Ning Fan win? Bai Feiting's tone was unpleasant, as if he hadn't forgotten the gap between him and Ning Fan. If he can't win, not only Ning City, I'm afraid the entire Yu country will be annihilated. If I'm not wrong, this Tian Yizhi is just a refined corpse. I'm afraid that his true identity is that person. Gui Xiaozi said solemnly. Which person? Bu Guangfen and the other younger cultivators didn't know about these secrets, but some of the old monsters who had lived for hundreds and thousands of years immediately changed their expression when they heard Gui Xiaozi's words. The corpse devil that single-handedly massacred 7 low-grade cultivation countries 2,000 years ago. At this moment, Bai Feidong couldn't remain calm anymore. The expressions of the cultivators 100 miles away changed dramatically, as if they had heard some unbelievable and horrifying news. Previously, they didn't understand why Zhong Xuanzi, the dignified old ancestor of Great Void Sect, would turn around and leave the moment he saw Tian Yizi. So it turned out that he had seen through Tian Yizi's background. Corpse Devil 2,000 years ago, there were many ancient books in the first-rate sects that recorded that ruthless person. He was a ruthless person who made many nascent soul-old ancestors of mid-grade cultivation countries suffer a lot. Not only was his body strong enough to break magical treasures, it was also said that he was an expert in refining corpses. He had hundreds and thousands of harmonious spirit-refined corpses. When 10,000 corpses emerge, a cultivation country will be destroyed. This was recorded in most of the ancient books, but those who hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes would never be able to imagine how terrifying it was. Immemorial Devil Vein. The previous descendant of the corpse Devil Vein was still alive. Return to the sect at once and inform all the sects in Yu country that the descendant of the corpse devil has entered Yu country. Tian Yizi's eyes turned solemn. He had unleashed 70% of his aura, but it couldn't disturb Ning Fan's mind. Moreover, the illusion technique that he secretly cast with his 3 corpse pupils was broken by Ning Fan's sword shadow. The trace of immemorial star force in the starlight sword shadow made Tian Yizi's eyes burn with passion. Immemorial divine weapon. I know that you have the immemorial devil vein, but I didn't know that you have an immemorial divine weapon. However, from today onwards, this immemorial divine weapon belongs to me. Is that so? Let's see if you can carry it or not. Giant sword form. Ning Fan shook his wrist. The starlight flying sword turned into a thick and heavy giant sword that was 7 feet long. When it was waved, faint sounds of thunder could be heard. Ning Fan's physical body grew twice as long as he used the 6-meter body refining technique. As the icy rainbow approached, the huge sword slashed down at Tian Yizi. He had already witnessed the strength of Tian Yizi's body. This time, he wouldn't hold back. Hiss. This sword actually has 2 forms. Is this not mentioned in the corpse devil record? Tian Yizi said with fear and excitement. The corpse devil record that he mentioned was the method he used to obtain the inheritance of the corpse devil. It was different from the memory inheritance of ancient chaos, but it could also be considered as passing down the cultivation method of the sect. Without hesitation, Tian Yizi put down the black coffin and used the body refining technique. His body grew to a height of 10 feet. His body refining technique was obviously much better than Ning Fan's body. In front of Tian Yizi, the tall Ning Fan was only as tall as Tian Yizi's calf. After turning into a giant, Tian Yizi was bold enough to catch Ning Fan's giant sword with his bare hands. Ning Fan's body had at least 10,000 gene of strength. But when the palm and the sword collided, Ning Fan's blood and qi were in turmoil. His strength was much weaker than Tian Yizi's. It wasn't because Tian Yizi's body refining realm was higher than Ning Fan's. It was because Tian Yizi's body refining technique was much higher than Ning Fan's. As a matter of fact, Tian Yizi didn't feel good after receiving the sword. Both of his feet sunk into the metal of a ship. His wrist was in so much pain that it felt like it was about to break. This kid's body refining realm is very strong. This old man is only a step away from breaking through to the silver bone realm. But this kid seems to be much stronger than the ordinary silver bone realm. Is it because he has condensed the fiend god star? Tian Yizi's eyes flashed with a trace of undetectable jealousy. As the descendant of the fiend god star, he rarely felt jealous of anyone. Ning Fan was the first. Fortunately, his body refining technique was extraordinary. It was called Colossal Bone's secret art. It was a nascent realm low-grade body refining technique that he snatched from a nascent soul-old monster in a mid-rank cultivation country. Transforming into a giant using Colossal Bone's secret art naturally wasn't as powerful as the giant body of an expert like Bone Sovereign. But compared to Ning Fan's commonplace cultivation technique, Colossal Bone's secret art, it was much more powerful. Unfortunately, in Ning City, only you can withstand my illusion technique. But you can't even withstand a palm of mine. Tian Yitzi sneered. Is that so? Imperial lightning. At this moment, starlight flashed on Ning Fan's glabella. Above the clear sky, lightning flashed and rumbled incessantly. Lightning flashed on the giant sword. Tian Yitzi was shocked. His palm was cut off by the giant sword. But there was no blood. Tian Yitzi didn't show any sign of pain, but his eyes were hollow for the first time. At the side, the lid of the black coffin suddenly flew up. A vicissitude chi came out from the coffin. Good, very good. You aren't weak to be able to injure this refined corpse, but you aren't my opponent. Not to mention that you are only a harmonious spirit cultivator, even if you break through to the gold core realm, you still won't be my opponent, unless you are a nascent soul cultivator. A black shadow flashed out from the coffin and slapped the giant sword with his decayed palm. Immediately, an indescribable force came from the giant sword, causing Ning Fan's chest to tremble. Blood spurted out from his mouth and he was forced back a few hundred meters in the sky. Only then did he regain his balance. His eyes narrowed. Was this the true body of Tian Yitzi who was at the edge of the second transformation, a half-step corpse devil? Even Ning Fan's silver bone body couldn't withstand the force of his palm. What made Ning Fan's body irresistible was the magical force that came from the giant sword. The magical force that came from the giant sword almost shattered the immortal veins in his arm. How powerful was the real corpse devil in the cauldron ring? Ning Fan's face was as calm as still water. After a moment, he wiped off the bloodstains and his eyes sparkled. He could vaguely feel that in the direction of Sinister Sparrow Sect, from a place far away, there was an imposing aura flying towards him. Chapter 136. Such an imposing manner made the ordinary gold core experts feel powerless. As for the appearance of the black corpse, it made Ji He, a young girl who had never experienced the affairs of the world, vomit acid out of her mouth. His dark red intestines were exposed to the air. There were many wounds on his body with milky white maggots wriggling back and forth. His eye frames were hollow and his eyelids were completely rotten. His bloody mouth was wide open and his rotten tongue occasionally flowed out black blood with a trace of black chi, as if it was some kind of deadly poison that could kill gold core experts. It's been a long time since I came out of the coffin. How many years has it been? It should be 2,000 years. Little brat, you stay for the last kill. I'll eat a few gold cores first to fill my stomach. Amidst the rotting stench, the black corpse sneered. With a flash of black light, he casted the instant shift divine ability. In a flash, he traversed the space and appeared 100 miles away, right in front of the onlookers. Among these cultivators, there were some who recognized the black corpse and had already returned to their sects in a hurry. As for the rest, such as the sect master of Purple Light sect, they were still watching the battle with a neutral attitude. There were 17 of them. The black corpse suddenly casted instant shift and appeared in front of the crowd. All of this made the 17 gold core old monsters shudder. Almost in an instant, the black corpse tore a gold core old monster into pieces with a swipe of his claws. He bathed in corpse chi and devoured the gold core. Then, he sneered and attacked the second person. It doesn't taste good. It seems like there's no Dao fruit. What a pity. The black corpse let out a sigh. The second gold core old monster had been torn into pieces with his bare hands, blood splattering across the sky. Everything happened too fast. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe the Black Corpse's attack speed as fast as lightning. After killing 2 gold core experts in an instant, the rest of the experts regained their senses. Immediately, they screamed and fled in all directions, like a chicken coop that had been invaded by a weasel. This is instant shift. He's really a nascent soul old monster. Run away quickly. Quick, split up and run. Each and every one of the golden core old monsters who were usually as steady as Mount Tai were in a mess at this moment. Their protective magic treasures and magical arts were all activated. Light, immortal clouds, and even blood essence were spurting out. There was only one word in their minds: escape. But when these old monsters fled, it only turned into a sneer on the face of the Black Corpse. The Black Corpse flashed and teleported again. In the clear sky, there were more than 10 rays of light scurrying around. A black dot flickered continuously in the sky and easily caught up to the rays of light. Every time it tore them apart with its bare hands, a scream would be heard. All the cultivators in Ning City who had spirit sense and could sense the shocking change 100 miles away were terrified. The gold core old monster, who was a tyrant in Yu country, couldn't even last one round in the hands of the Black Corpse. Ning Fan's expression changed drastically when he sensed that the Black Corpse had abandoned him to chase after the unrelated gold core cultivators. He didn't pity those fence-sitters, but he was worried that the Black Corpse would complete the second corpse transformation after absorbing too much blood and flesh. Since the Black Corpse was a refined corpse, logically speaking, it shouldn't have magical force. However, it cultivated the corpse devil vein, a man-made corpse transformation that possessed magical force. The magical force of an early nascent soul cultivator was already very troublesome for Ning Fan. The corpse devil body at the edge of the second transformation coupled with a high-grade body refining technique was already hard for Ning Fan to deal with. If he allowed the Black Corpse to complete the second transformation and become a true corpse devil, he was afraid that even a second or third realm silver bone body refining cultivator wouldn't be able to contend against him, unless he broke through to the fourth realm of silver bone. We can't let him devour blood and flesh. Fellow Daoist Jingzhua, Suqiu Xianzi, both of you have some teleportation techniques. Please chase after the Black Corpse and stop him from killing the gold core cultivators. I will use some kind of divine ability to attack this devil from a distance. It should be effective. Jingzhua didn't say a word. With a flash of fiery light, he casted the teleportation technique and chased after the Black Corpse. As for Suqiu Xianzi, she flapped her butterfly wings and chased after him with teleportation. Ning Fan immediately retreated in the air, distancing himself from Tian Yizi's corpse. He then patted his storage pouch and took out a jade order that was glowing with silver sword light. Immortal Execution Order. The Black Corpse was the original body and Tian Yizi was a living corpse that was refined by him. It was a special living corpse that contained the Black Corpse's magical force and divine ability. The corpse devil couldn't possess magical force. Once it completed the second transformation, the Black Corpse would lose all magical force. Therefore, he had forged the corpse devil vein in Tian Yizi's body and infused all of his magical force into the living corpse. The third corpse pupil was also on Tian Yizi's body. In a sense, Tian Yizi could be considered as the second incarnation of the Black Corpse. He could also be considered as a vessel that stored his cultivation base and magical force. The reason why he asked for the nascent formation pill for Tian Yizi was to completely improve his cultivation base. Tian Yizi's body was still a gold core after all. He couldn't cast many nascent soul level divine abilities without attaining nascent soul realm. On the other hand, the Black Corpse was wholeheartedly cultivating the corpse devil, seeking immortality and unparalleled strength. Suqiu and Jingzhua wouldn't be affected by the illusion technique when they were chasing after the corpse devil. They would only be able to distract one or two of them. However, this Tian Yizi seemed to have been given a special order when the Black Corpse left. As soon as he saw Ning Fan taking out the immortal execution order, he immediately went crazy and chased after Ning Fan with a low growl. His 30 meters giant body stepped on the void and chased after Ning Fan, preventing him from casting the divine ability of the immortal execution order. The immortal execution order was obtained in the demon sinister forest. One of the pieces was used by the great elder of Green Clan to kill Ning Fan, which in turn led to the formation of Ning Fan's sword consciousness. The immortal execution order was obtained in the demon sinister forest. One of the pieces was used by the great elder of Green Clan to kill Ning Fan, which led to the formation of Ning Fan's sword consciousness. When the great elder of Green Clan cast the immortal execution order, he had to set up an altar first. He had to collect Ning Fan's chi and infuse it into the immortal execution order. The reason for setting up the altar was to worship the heaven and earth and borrow the emperor's might to activate the order. However, if Ning Fan cast the order, he wouldn't need to set up another altar with the immortal emperor chi of ancient chaos. As for collecting the black corpse's chi, why would he need to collect it when the sky was filled with the stench of the black corpse? He could just wave his hand. Ning Fan didn't know teleportation, so he couldn't catch up with the black corpse. To deal with the black corpse that was 100 li away, he could only rely on the immortal execution order to attack him from a distance. He had obtained 2 pieces of this order from the great elder of Green Clan. Originally, he planned to absorb the immortal execution sword chi to enhance the strength of his sword consciousness. Therefore, this order was extremely precious. Without this order, it would be hard for Ning Fan to think of other ways to enhance his sword consciousness and sword sense. As for his sword sense, he was afraid that it could only kill an early gold core cultivator. However, the current situation was urgent and Ning Fan couldn't afford to be stingy. Another problem was the 30 meters tall giant that was chasing after him relentlessly, Tian Yitzi. His fists were constantly chasing after Ning Fan while the vertical eye on his glabella occasionally flickered with soul-stirring blood light. Ning Fan's face was as gloomy as still water. Under the pursuit of Tian Yitzi, he couldn't even use the immortal execution order to protect himself. If he was careless and got hit by the third corpse pupil's eye technique, he would be gravely injured even if he didn't die. This time, Tian Yitzi's eye technique was obviously not an illusion technique, but a killing technique. What should I do? As Ning Fan retreated rapidly, his eyes swept across the city wall and found Sinister Sparrow revealing a bitter smile of shame. Sinister Sparrow wanted to help Ning Fan, but he couldn't even see through the illusion technique and stand in front of Tian Yitzi. Little Jihe stamped her feet anxiously. Beside her, Si Wuxia, who had been struggling with her eyes, suddenly calmed down. With a tap of her toes, she stepped into the void. Her half-step nascent soul chi was released faintly like the holy sunlight. Ning Fan, let me help you, she said, not calling him master. As for Ning Fan, he didn't have the time to think about the mystery behind it. It would be best if he had Si Wuxia's help. Si Wuxia was the #1 expert in Yu country that day. Under the enhancement of the Golden Dawn pill, she had recovered her half-step nascent soul strength. She had many means, so it shouldn't be a problem for her to deal with Tian Yitzi's illusion technique. Sure enough, in the face of the spirit sense blood threads hidden in the air, Si Wuxia just waved her long sleeve. Immediately, the 7-colored light trembled and wiped out the spirit sense blood threads, breaking the illusion attack. Then, she waved her sleeves continuously. The seemingly soft and powerless sleeves struck Tian Yitzi's body, producing a loud rumbling sound like a mountain rock. The 30-meter giant was pushed back 100 meters, leaving Ning Fan a safe space to perform the ritual. On the city wall of Ning City, Sinister Sparrow smiled helplessly. Those who didn't know Si Wuxia's background, including a few cultivators of Ning City, revealed a look of horror. How could this stupid girl who followed beside Jihe be so strong? Ning Fan's eyes glanced at Si Wuxia's pure and holy body. He vaguely felt a trace of strangeness, but he didn't think too much about it. He made a hand seal, triggering the immortal sovereign's prestige in the yin-yang locket. At this moment, Ning Fan stood in the sky. His white robe was like that of a god, but his eyes were indifferent to the common people, just like the ancient Chaos Immortal Emperor who looked down upon the entire galaxy billions of years ago. In my name, Ning Fan, this command, immortal execution. At this moment, Ning Fan's prestige gently shrouded the entire Ning city. This was a kind of ethereal prestige that belonged to the ancient Chaos Immortal Emperor, not Ning Fan. Therefore, it couldn't be like the Black Corpse, whose prestige was too overwhelming. However, this prestige was as vicissitude as the heaven and earth, as vast as the sun and moon. It made Sinister Sparrow and the other Gold Core old monsters feel inferior, as if they were facing the heaven and earth. Even Bai Faden couldn't resist Ning Fan, who was standing in the sky at this moment. He could only look up to him. What level of prestige is this? Bu Quangfun's expression changed dramatically. Beside him, Yuchi, who was carrying the little pig in his arms, smirked at Bu Quangfun. This is the prestige of my young master. Isn't it awesome? Isn't it awesome? Bu Quangfun, as long as I follow young master wholeheartedly, it will only take a few years for me to surpass you. Let's not talk about the old grudge between the two. Under Ning Fan's command, the immortal execution command suddenly emitted a bright sword light. For extremely terrifying giant sword shadows immediately sealed the vast sky 100 miles away. Scryer shadow. Form. Sword chi covers the sky. I don't want to kill him, I just want to inflict heavy injuries. I just want to delay until the incarnation of the Black Corpse arrives. Ning Fan's eyes glinted with cold light. The Black Corpse was still unaware of all these. Under his teleportation ability, 14 of the 17 Gold Core Realm cultivators who were sitting on the fence had already died. The remaining ones, including the Purple Light sect leader, consisted of 2 Middle Realm cultivators and 1 Late Realm cultivator who were still struggling to escape. When the Black Corpse's gaze fell on him, the sect master of Purple Light sect immediately felt his blood run cold and he was out of his wits. Chapter 137. The Black Corpse had already hunted down 14 people. The Purple Light sect's leader took advantage of this time to escape with all his might. He was almost 200 miles away from Peace City. However, the Black Corpse easily caught up with them after dozens of instantaneous teleportation. I don't want to die, I don't want to. Terrified, he changed his direction and ran toward a cultivator's family. The Qin family of Western Yu was an intermediate harmonious spirit family. The reason why the sect leader of Purple Light sect had fled to this place was so that the corpse devil would eat the others and not eat him. This was selfishness. It was a choice that people often made in the face of the fear of death. As for the Black Corpse, it seemed that he was rather satisfied with the Purple Light sect master's way of doing things. He followed the Purple Light sect master unhurriedly, annihilating the cultivation clans along the way and devouring countless blood and flesh. Western Yu's Qin family. A purple light pierced through the Qin family's spirit-level formation and escaped. The old ancestor of Qin family was aghast. That purple light must be a Gold Core old monster. Did a Gold Core old monster come to Qin family? Such a tyrannical method of breaking the formation, could it be that he was here to denounce me? The Qin clan's patriarch didn't dare to tarry, and immediately came out of seclusion to prepare to welcome them. However, to his astonishment, he discovered that another black beam had entered the Qin clan's territory. With this old man here, all of you will become my food. The Black Corpse laughed coldly and performed an incantation gesture. Immediately, black fog billowed above the Qin family, and black clouds pressed down on the city. Black clouds and black mist filled the sky, and the Qin clan fell into an eerie silence. As for the Qin clan patriarch, his sea of consciousness was tainted, and his eyes were blank. A dull, stupid smile appeared on his face. All of this was just like the expressions of the Tiandao sect disciples. All the cultivators of the Chen clan were refined into living corpses by the black corpse in an instant. Living corpses are good. They can injure people. After the corpses are crushed, they can provide corpse chi to this old man. Following that purple-clothed junior, I can find quite a number of good corpses. If someone saw it, they would notice that there were thousands of harmonious spirit living corpses in a black pouch on the black corpse's waist. With a flash of his conveyance light, he teleported again and chased after the purple light sect leader. The purple light sect leader, who had just escaped more than 10 miles away, did not even have the time to rejoice when a chill ran down his spine. This. So fast. In just a dozen breaths of time, he wiped out the Chen family. He changed his direction several times, passing by the Zhao clan, the Lin clan. Each and every cultivation clan was annihilated after the arrival of the purple light sect leader. After annihilating a few cultivators, the black corpse seemed to be tired. The ancient corpse is more important. There's no point in playing with a junior anymore. You can die now. The black corpse let out a hideous laugh and teleported out. He grabbed the purple light sect leader's arm with one claw and tore it off forcefully. The purple light sect leader cried out in pain. He fell from the sky and crashed onto the ground. His body was trembling, and there was no sign of his usual arrogance. With a flash of black light, the black corpse appeared in front of the purple light sect master. He pressed his finger on the purple light sect master's glabella. The purple light sect master could not even resist. He could only tremble and wait for his death. This is the might of a nascent soul, so terrifying. His eyes had completely lost its focus due to fear. But at this moment, the two streaks of light finally caught up. One of them was old ancestor Jingzhua. Although he had the magical force of a nascent soul, his realm had yet to be upgraded. Hence, it was a huge burden for him to teleport. As for Suqiu Xianzi, it was even more difficult for her to teleport with the help of her spiritual equipment. However, little Jihe had given her 2 bottles of pill candy. In that case, her magical force would no longer be a problem. However, she couldn't help but think about how Ning Fan spoiled Jihe. He treated Third Revolution pills as if they were candies. As soon as Jingzhua and Suqiu appeared, they immediately attacked. Suqiu Xianzi had lost her water ring magical treasure. Her other magical treasures were not of a high grade, so it was hard for her to hurt the black corpse. Therefore, she formed a hand seal and shot out a stack of golden talismans. The talismans turned into golden light and produced infinite golden lines, binding the black corpse tightly. Old ancestor Jingzhua seized the opportunity and shot out his fiery red short dagger axe. It turned into a fiery light and engulfed the black corpse. Both of them might not be able to hurt the black corpse, but they managed to save the purple light sect master. However, in Suqiu's eyes, the fact that the purple light sect master had dragged down a few cultivators in order to escape had turned into deep disdain. Hurry up and run away. Leave this to us. Suqiu said coldly, unwilling to look at the purple light sect master. Yes, yes. Thank you, Suqiu Xianzi, for saving me. Thank you, Senior Jingzhua, for saving me. The purple light sect master was overjoyed to escape from death. He didn't care about his face anymore. Without even bowing, he immediately rode the cloud and left, fearing that he would be targeted by the black corpse again if he was one step slower. Today's incident had left an indelible shadow in the heart of the insignificant purple light sect master. Under this shadow, he was afraid that he would never be able to break through his realm again. Once he returned to the sect, he would immediately pack up his belongings and run away. There was a nascent soul devil in Yu country. He couldn't stay any longer. The escape of the purple light sect master made the black corpse let out a cold snort of dissatisfaction. He clapped both of his palms. The short dagger axe that had killed 3 gold core realm experts and severely injured 5 gold core realm experts was smashed into pieces. This scene caused Jingzhuo's expression to change drastically. The short dagger axe was a peak high-grade magical treasure. How could it be broken into pieces just like that? Retreat quickly. Jingzhuo didn't have time to care about the pain. He immediately reminded Suqiu and flew away. In the eyes of the black corpse, there seemed to be a trace of anger. He was angry that a mere ant actually dared to stop him from eating a human. Although your nascent soul is condensed, it seems to be very delicious. The black corpse let out a sinister smile. With a devilish roar, he abandoned Suqiu and chased after Jingzhuo with teleportation. He stretched out his claw. Just the wind generated from the claw was enough to make Jingzhuo's face hurt. He was secretly shocked at how strong the black corpse was. At this critical moment, Jingzhuo didn't dare to hold back anymore. With a ruthless look in his eyes, he opened his mouth and spat out a green flame. When the green flame soared, it vaguely turned into the shape of a green wand. The blazing flame power made the black corpse's expression change. Earth vein demonic flame. Green wand flame. No, it's just a trace of green wand flame that has fused with other flames to form a pseudo-demonic flame. Hehe, it really scared me. If it's really the earth vein demonic flame, it would be troublesome. The body of the black corpse was at the critical moment of the second transformation. He couldn't afford to be captured alive. Ordinary flames wouldn't be able to hurt him, but if it was the earth vein demonic flame, it might destroy his transformation. With a sneer, he clenched his black claw and the green wand flame was crushed into pieces. His claw went straight for Jingzhuo's dantian, shattering another protective magical treasure of Jingzhuo and his high-grade spirit armor. Its target was the illusory nascent soul in Jingzhuo's dantian. Fast, too fast. The speed of the black corpse was too fast. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that his attack was as fast as lightning. Based on Jingzhuo's thinking, he couldn't adapt to this kind of hand-to-hand combat. He had never imagined that his strength would be so much weaker than the black corpse. No wonder the black corpse in front of him had the strength to annihilate the 7 countries. Even an ordinary nascent soul cultivator would find it hard to resist such a crazy devil. When cultivators fought, they would usually keep a distance from each other. No matter how fast the fight was, they would still have time to prepare. However, the black corpse's attack had completely recreated the ferocity of the ancient fiend gods. How could an ordinary cultivator withstand it? But Jingzhuo wouldn't allow the black corpse to invade his dantian and seize his nascent soul. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out his blood essence. The heart mirror on his chest turned into a golden light and pierced the black corpse's arm with but a chance, causing the arm to hesitate for a moment. Jingzhuo seized the opportunity to withdraw himself and stood beside Suqiu, hoping that the two of them could resist the black corpse's attack with their combined strength. "We can't," Jingzhuo said concisely. Wait for Ning Fan's help." Suqiu's bright eyes flashed with a hint of trust. Ning Fan had said that he would lend a helping hand. He would have the means to cross hundreds of li to help. With Ning Fan's personality, he wouldn't let her die in the mouth of the black corpse in vain. The black corpse was surprised by Jingzhuo's heart mirror of golden light. Buddha treasure. Even though it's only a high-grade Buddha treasure, it's enough to injure me with its ability to restrain evil spirits. You're not bad, a mere false nascent soul cultivator, but you will die for sure. No one will be able to save you. I'll let you see my real trump card. I'll let you understand the meaning of 10,000 corpses exterminating a country. The black corpse licked his lips and patted the black pouch. Countless harmonious spirit and even gold core corpse chi rose from the pouch. Strange howls and anguish came from the black pouch, causing Jingzhuo's face to turn pale. How many refined corpses were in the black pouch on the black corpse's waist? Just the corpse resentment in the black pouch was not something Jingzhuo could withstand. 10,000 corpses. This black corpse had 10,000 corpses. He wanted to massacre the country and make Yu country the 8th low-grade cultivation country that he would destroy. Suqiu Xianzi, leave quickly. We can't fight against this devil. The only thing we can do now is to return to Ning City and escape from Yu country with fellow Daoist Ning and the others. We'll seek refuge in another country. Yu country will certainly be destroyed. Even Great Void sect won't be able to interfere in the future. I'll leave it to the Rain Palace to handle. I'm not a match for the Black Corpse. I might not even be a match for Tian Yizi. In addition to the countless refined corpses of the Black Corpse, how could I fight against him? I can't fight against him, even if I break through to the nascent soul realm, I still won't be able to fight against him. Let's wait a little longer. Ning Fan might have a way. Suqiu said stubbornly. She firmly believed that Ning Fan wouldn't deceive her. No one could convince her otherwise. This. Suqiu Xianzi, I'm sorry to offend you. You have a close relationship with fellow Daoist Ning. I can't just watch you die here. If you insist on not leaving, I'll knock you out and bring you back to Ning City safely. Jing Zhuo sighed. In his opinion, he could only knock Suqiu out and bring her away by force. It might be a reckless move, but he couldn't just watch Suqiu die here. Suqiu's face turned red when she heard Jing Zhuo's words. She and Ning Fan had only met once. How could they have a close relationship? If she was knocked out by Jing Zhuo, her skin would definitely be touched. Suqiu might as well just die. Moreover, Jing Zhuo had thought too highly of this matter. His words made the Black Corpse laugh. You want to leave? Do you think you can? Corpse chi filled the sky. Within 100 li radius, there was no way to teleport. The Black Corpse flashed with a black light. Both of his claws went straight for the hearts of the two. The attack was too fast. Without teleportation, the two of them would definitely die. In the eyes of the Black Corpse, he could already imagine the scene after killing the two of them. As for women, he liked stubborn women. He would turn them into a living corpse to retain a trace of consciousness. At that time, he would be delighted to see her struggling, humiliated, afraid and resentful. As for a false nascent soul cultivator, it would be a great tonic. However, when both of his claws were halfway out, the escaping light was abruptly cut off and fell to the ground. For the first time in his life, he revealed a look of fear and retreated without hesitation. However, the Black Corpse found that he couldn't teleport either. It wasn't because of the black chi, but because of some other means. The sword chi that blotted out the sky locked the vast sky. For huge, heavy and ancient sword shadows could be vaguely seen through the thick corpse chi. It was as if the sword shadows were so sharp that nothing could stop them. Rays of Shurkill sword chi appeared in front of the Black Corpse without warning. That tyrannical body that was comparable to a corpse devil's was easily pierced through like tofu under the sword chi, causing black blood to flow profusely. The Black Corpse let out a muffled groan. It seemed like he was heavily injured by the sword chi. To his horror, he found out that the extremely horrifying sword chi in front of him was recorded in the corpse devil record, the land of 4 swords, slaughter and destruction. The immortal who betrays the heaven shall suffer 10,000 swords. This sword chi can't be wrong. It's immortal execution sword chi. It's the sword of punishment of the ancient heavenly court. Arg! Shrill screams came from his mouth. At this moment, he no longer tried to summon the 10,000 corpses because he was afraid that they would be destroyed by the sword chi. Previously, Ning Fan could only rely on the Jade Royal Pill to reconstruct his body to withstand the sword chi. How could the Black Corpse's self-healing ability be comparable to the Jade Royal Pill that was hard to come by for immortal emperors? It wasn't surprising for him to be severely injured by the sword chi. The Black Corpse wasn't afraid of being severely injured. Because he was a corpse, the injuries on his body were extremely easy to heal. He just needed to refine his corpse using magical treasures. But what he couldn't accept the most was that his corpse devil body that was on the verge of breaking through to the second transformation actually began to regress. Waves of sword chi slashed across, each of them extinguishing the corpse chi. That was the corpse chi that he had painstakingly collected for 2,000 years. All for the sake of completing the second transformation of corpse devil after 2,000 years and achieving immortality. The attack of the sword chi gradually weakened, but the killing intent of the black corpse, who was in the middle of it, grew stronger and stronger. Within the immortal execution sword chi, there was a trace of familiar magical chi, which made him roar in anger. That was Ning Fan's chi. This immortal execution order was released by Ning Fan. He had never hated someone so much in his life. Ning Fan was the first one. Ning Fan. This old man must shred you into 1,000 pieces. Arg. His corpse demon realm was still falling, and something that made him even more distressed happened. The corpse of Tian Yitzi that was placed in Ning City to obstruct Ning Fan was destroyed. Tian Yitzi was destroyed. Almost immediately, all the magical power of the black corpse began to dissipate. This was because Tian Yitzi was the black corpse's vessel for storing magical power. Corpses couldn't have magical power, so he could only take a living corpse and leave a slim chance of survival, using a half-corpse body to store his magical power. Therefore, Tian Yitzi was extremely important. The black corpse had painstakingly tempered Tian Yitzi's body with countless heavenly materials and earthly treasures, almost reaching the silver bone realm. In addition to the magical power that was comparable to peak early nascent soul realm, who in Ning City could kill Tian Yitzi? No. My corpse devil realm. My living corpse vessel. My 2,000 years of planning is in vain. Hateful, hateful. In the sky above Ning City, Ning Fan didn't immediately go to see Wuxia's aid after casting the immortal execution order. With Si Wuxia's methods, she was able to fight Tian Ez to a standstill for a while. However, after a while, Si Wuxia's magical power gradually weakened, while Tian Ez was still expressionless. His magical power was extremely vigorous. Si Wuxia was about to lose, and gradually, Ning Fan saw a flaw in Si Wuxia's actions. Ever since Si Wuxia was refined into a spiritual puppet, she had lost most of her memories and had forgotten how to cast many magical techniques. But at this moment, many of the magical techniques that Si Wuxia cast were the magical techniques that she had learned when she was the sect master of Heaven Separation Sect. Could it be that she had recovered her memories? Ning Fan's eyes flickered, but he was puzzled. If Si Wuxia had really recovered her memories, she would definitely kill him immediately. Why would she help him? Or was it Cece's personality that was causing mischief? Cece, if it's Si Wuxia, then she's dead, but if it's Cece, I can't ignore her safety. Ning Fan's eyes revealed a sigh. Even though Si Wuxia's magical power was depleted and the vertical eye between the eyebrows of the giant was aimed at him, he still didn't move half a step. Because another black-robed figure had arrived in the sky above Ning City. This black-robed figure looked exactly the same as the white-robed Ning Fan. The only difference was his cold eyes and the black lines on half of his face. His black robe fluttered. In a flash, he appeared in front of Si Wuxia. No one could see how he appeared. Even Gue Qiaozi's eyes changed, unable to see through the strangeness of this black-robed figure. The third corpse pupil technique had already been shot out, but the black-robed figure blocked in front of Si Wuxia. He waved his palm and forcefully received the blood-red pupil technique. This pupil technique was used to kill people with evil intent. He wasn't afraid of evil intent because he wasn't a human. He didn't have a heart and no thoughts. He wasn't afraid of the Ming Luo illusory realm, so why would he be afraid of this immature false three corpses' evil intent? Tian Yitzi's dull face revealed horror for the first time. But after a moment of shock, he immediately retracted his expression. His Tenjiang body waved his fist and activated the cold ice force, displaying another nascent realm body refining technique. This fist technique was called ice shattering. One punch could form ice and the other could shatter the ice. No one below the nascent soul realm could withstand it. However, when the cold ice fist was 3 zhang away from the black-robed figure, it was suddenly cut into two by an invisible sharp object. At the same time, a sense of death arose in Tian Yizi's heart. The black-robed figure spoke for the first time. "My name is Mo Ning. You will die if you hurt her." In an instant, the figure of the black-robed man suddenly exploded, turning into tens of thousands of thin black lights. Every black light turned into a black sword light a moment later, spreading out in the clear sky like thick ink, like a black wind, rolling in the air. Within the sword light, there was a trace of ancient and heavy immortal execution aura. Tens of thousands of black light rolled like a long wind. The sturdy body of the Tenjiang giant that was in the middle of the sword wind began to disintegrate. In just a moment, Tian Yizi, who made Ning Fan act as if he was facing a formidable enemy, turned into ashes. "Even if you don't hurt her, you will still die," the black-robed figure added coldly. The nascent soul chi of the black-robed figure swept across, making all the cultivators in Ning City shiver as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Another nascent soul realm cultivator. This black-robed cultivator called himself Mo Ning. Then, he shouldn't be Ning Fan, but why did he look so similar to Ning Fan? Could he be the legendary Black Devil Ning? Yes, that must be it. It turned out that the legendary Black Devil Ning was a nascent soul realm cultivator. Thus, it was understandable that he looked exactly the same as Ning Fan. Ning Fan was the great-grandson of Black Devil Ning. It wasn't strange for grandfather and grandson to look alike, was it? Only he was shaking her head foolishly. She wasn't afraid of this chi at all and didn't think that this person was Black Devil Ning. She knew that this was Ning Fan. Exactly. "Brother Fan, how come there are two of us?" Although this Brother Fan is cold, he is quite humorous. She smiled sweetly, her eyes sparkling like little stars. She was very interested in Ning Fan splitting into two. The strength of the black-robed figure made he feel at ease. As long as Brother Fan was here, no one could destroy Ning City today, she firmly believed that. The black-robed figure looked at the direction where the black corpse left and vanished in a flash. The white-robed figure's eyes were solemn as he chased after the black corpse in an icy rainbow. After the escaping light, both of them casted the false sense art and went into hiding for a moment. When they reappeared, they were a white-robed and black-cloaked young man with a smile on his face, but his eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Next, slay the devil. Is this the sword sense divine ability that my incarnation comprehended after breaking through to the nascent soul realm? From today onwards, this divine ability shall be called the Black Torrent Spirit Dividing Technique." Ning Fan smiled faintly. His cultivation base was still at the peak of harmonious spirit realm, but when he took a step forward, it was teleportation. His chi was fluctuating between the harmonious spirit realm and the nascent soul realm. What was there to fear about the corpse devil? With Ning Fan's current strength, the life and death of Yu country could be decided with just a single thought. As for how the others would misunderstand Black Devil Ning and guess Ning Fan's identity, let them be. After today, no one would dare to have any evil intentions towards Ning City. Chapter 138. During these 3 months, Little Bright Sparrow had already woken up. She had been staying beside Hei to protect him. However, what she didn't understand was that this black-robed Ning Fan was too cold and didn't even smile at her. It was only because of Little Bright Sparrow's request that Hei concocted some pills to let her know that although his face was cold, his temperament was still gentle. "Cookie brother has left. I can't bear to eat these pill cookies." Bright Sparrow felt a little suffocated in her little heart. Tears fell from her eyes as she panicked. "Grandpa, why do I feel like I'm peeing in my eyes?" she said anxiously. "Silly girl, this isn't pee. This is tears. When you miss someone, you will cry if you miss them too much. When you miss a family, you will cry if you miss them too much. The short old man Ming Luo sighed with emotion in his eyes. Tears? What is that? What is missing, and what is home? Bright Sparrow's heart tightened when the word home flashed across her mind. Home is a place that you can't help but miss even when you are far away from home. Your home should be this dark sparrow's grave. As for Grandpa's home, it's in a place far, far away, a place called the tree world, that Ning Fan's innate talent is pretty good. When he was at the harmonious spirit realm, he was able to separate an incarnation and cultivate it to the nascent soul realm. Even in the tree world, he can be considered as a heaven's favored figure. Bright Sparrow tilted her little head and ate the pill cookies. She didn't understand the sorrow of the Ming Luo treant. However, she vaguely felt that there was something wrong with Ming Luo's words. Her home shouldn't be in the dark sparrow's grave. Recently, Bright Sparrow had been dreaming. In her dream, her name was Sitsang and she had a home that was very far away. It seemed like there was another home that wasn't too far away. Grandpa, I want to leave the dark sparrow's grave. When the two words Sitsang flashed across her mind, she suddenly felt a little sad. It was a feeling that she couldn't understand. What nonsense are you talking about? Not to mention that the dark sparrow's grave has a special method to prevent the demons from leaving. You can't leave at all. Even if you can leave, you should know that you are a pill devil. You are a fifth revolution pill that has gained spirit and has the chance to be cultivated into a ninth revolution or even higher pill. If you leave the dark sparrow's grave and lose Grandpa's protection, the humans in the outside world will eat you alive. Those humans aren't afraid of you like the demon race in Dark Sparrow's grave. Ming Luo's countenance changed dramatically as he reprimanded. Oh. Bright Sparrow replied softly. No one knew what she was thinking about, but there was a question in her mind. Was the human race really that scary? Biscuit brother, isn't it great? Although that old man Xue Qing was timid, he was not considered scary, right? Moreover, those living beings in the dream who knelt before him. Were their pious eyes really that scary? I still want to leave Dark Sparrow's grave. She said softly in her heart, but didn't say it out loud. All of this happened after the black-robed Ning Fan left the grave. At this moment, Ning Fan had already merged his two incarnations and returned to his previous appearance. The white robe and the black cloak coexisted, the smile and the killing intent resonated, ice and fire burned in the immortal meridian, good and evil, God and devil changing in his eyes. White like a god, black like a demon, yin and yang as one. All of this secretly conformed to the supreme principle of the grand Tao of yin and yang. Thousands of miles away from Ning City, there was an ancient battlefield filled with ruins. This was the place where Jing Zhua and Suqiu chased after the Black Corpse. The immortal execution sword shadow was about to dissipate, but the Black Corpse relied on various means to forcefully come back to life under the sword qi. Severe injuries. The ground was covered with black blood. However, his gaze was even more vicious. Although this serious injury had caused his corpse demon realm to fall, it had greatly improved his state of mind. Old ancestor Jing Zhuo was speechless after breaking the sword shadow. He was afraid that even he would die if he fell into the immortal execution sword qi. He really had no idea how Ning Fan was able to display such sword qi. Moreover, his understanding of the Black Corpse's strength had improved once again. As the sword shadow was broken, Jing Zhuo's hair immediately stood up. The reason why he didn't leave was because he wanted to eliminate the Black Corpse after it was severely injured. If he could kill the Black Corpse, he wouldn't need to flee to another country. Yu Country and Fire Cloud sect would be spared from the danger of destruction. He could casually give Fire Cloud sect to Ning Fan because he could see that Ning Fan would treat Fire Cloud sect well. However, deep down in his heart, he still had deep feelings for Fire Cloud sect. Suqiu Xianzi, let's attack together and kill this devil. Jingjue transmitted his voice to her. No need. He's here. Suqiu lifted her bright eyes, looked at the sky and smiled sweetly. Ning Fan's figure was hundreds of li away. If Jingjue didn't fully release his spirit sense, he wouldn't be able to sense Ning Fan's qi. However, Suqiu sensed it. It was the special sense of a woman, followed by the sense of spirit sense. Sure enough, after the black corpse broke the sword shadow, he crushed the 4 illusory sword shadows in the sky with hatred. He stood in the sky without looking at Jingjue and the others. Although he was severely injured, it wouldn't be too difficult for him to eliminate Jingjue because he still had endless trump cards. However, his heart had been filled with hatred. It didn't matter if he could eliminate Jingjue or not. At this moment, there was only one person in his heart. Ning Fan, who was approaching him amidst the flickering black light. Ning Fan. So you are a nascent soul cultivator. It's not surprising that you killed Tian Yizhi. The black corpse was so angry that he laughed. Ning Fan, who came to help, was still wearing the same outfit as before. He stood in the sky and didn't talk to the black corpse. His eyes swept across the ground and smiled at Suqiu and Jingjue. You've worked hard. I'll handle the rest of the matters. Both of you stay away. This voice was ethereal, but its power was much stronger than Jingjue's. This was the true power of a nascent soul cultivator. However, the strange thing was that Ning Fan's cultivation base and magical power were only at the half-step gold core realm. Jingjue hesitated for a moment, but immediately left. He still remembered the divination of the old man. Ning Fan could kill Jingjue with ease. Previously, he believed half of it, but now, he believed 90% of it. As for Suqiu, she looked at Ning Fan in the sky. She raised her head and smiled brightly. The safety of your country is in your hands, little guy. This Suqiu seemed to like to flaunt her seniority. However, her smile was 10,000 times more tender than an ordinary girl's. This smile was something that even a nascent soul expert of the Rain Palace couldn't get even with 1,000 gold coins. The two of them left. Only Ning Fan and the black corpse were left on the ancient battlefield. Ning Fan's eyes swept across the black corpse. There was fear in his eyes, but there was also a 90% chance of winning. The black robe's nascent soul formation only allowed his spirit sense to reach the early nascent soul realm. It didn't increase his magical power significantly, but it gave him 2 great abilities. The first was instant movement. The black light instant movement was extremely strange. It didn't consume magical power, but spirit sense. Even so, it had already reached the speed of an ordinary nascent soul cultivator. Ning Fan had a conjecture that if his white robe body broke through to the nascent soul realm and mastered the secret art of instant movement, his speed would be much faster than a cultivator of the same realm as him. The second was the Black Tempest Spirit Splitting Technique. It was a divine ability that allowed the black robe's body to explode into tens of thousands of black sword sense. This divine ability had the same principle as the sword sense, but its power was enough to injure an early nascent soul cultivator. Tian Yizhi was killed in just a single move. The reason why it could kill Tian Yizhi was not only because Tian Yizhi was only a gold core cultivator, but also because the magical power of an early nascent soul cultivator was stored in his body. At the same time, it also reflected the power of the Black Tempest Spirit Splitting Technique. After comprehending the Black Tempest Spirit Splitting Technique, Ning Fan's sword sense had a faint trace of black, which slightly increased the power of the sword sense. The 2 divine abilities, one for escaping and one for attacking, had made Ning Fan's strength take a qualitative leap. The only regret was that Ning Fan's magical power was still too weak. He couldn't fight a protracted battle and had to end it quickly. This was also the reason why the Black Robe didn't hesitate to use his strongest divine ability when facing Tian Yizhi. His magical power was limited, so he had to finish it in one move. He patted his storage pouch and took out a bottle of bitter pills. He didn't care about the bitterness of the pills and directly swallowed a dozen of them. He kept the remaining 10 pills in his mouth and wasn't in a hurry to swallow them. With the yin-yang evil vein's refining speed, he could fight and recover his magical power at the same time. However, the difference in magical power between him and the black corpse would still be like heaven and earth. However, Ning Fan had 90% chance of killing this corpse devil. This was a kind of confidence. The kind of imposing manner of a nascent soul cultivator. After all, the prestige of an immortal emperor was just prestige. It lacked Ning Fan's own understanding of the realm, so it lacked momentum. Without momentum, no matter how strong the prestige was, it was just an illusion. Could a fox flaunting the tigers might really hurt someone? Although the current prestige was only at the nascent soul realm and was far inferior to the ancient chaos immortal emperor, it truly belonged to Ning Fan. This murderous intent was obtained from Ning Fan's battles along the way. You are the descendant of the corpse devil vein and I am the descendant of the yin-yang evil vein. So, you can die in peace. Ning Fan's eyes changed and his murderous intent rose to the peak. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and 9 black fire dragons engulfed the heaven and earth, covering the sky with black flames. Yin-yang evil vein. What kind of evil vein is that? Wait, this is the earth vein demonic fire, the real earth vein demonic fire. The black corpse's expression changed dramatically. He never expected that Ning Fan would have such a demonic fire. Even when he was at his peak, it was already extremely difficult for him to resist the earth vein fire. Moreover, he had lost Tian Yizi's magical power container and his corpse was severely injured. It would be extremely dangerous for him to resist the fire with his physical body. Since you have this fire, forget it. This old man admits defeat. I will leave Ning City and you country now. For the first time, the black corpse's eyes showed a hint of weakness. Currently, he was in a disadvantageous position. No matter how deep the hatred was, he had to suppress it for the time being and seek revenge in the future. But the reply to the black corpse was only Ning Fan's cold voice. Dragon Vortex Fire, First Revolution, Second Revolution, Third Revolution and Fourth Revolution. In just a moment, the black flames that covered the sky turned into a massive fire vortex and engulfed the black corpse. The power of the vortex was extremely strange. The black corpse tried to use his remaining magical power to teleport away, but to his surprise, he found that his body couldn't break free from the power of the vortex. Star Vortex could reverse attacks. Fire Vortex could lock onto teleportation. The word vortex implied the principle of a circle. The heavenly Tao was a circle and the sun was a circle. Everything that was related to a circle couldn't be underestimated. In the vortex of oblivion, the black corpse had no choice but to use his remaining magical power to resist the might of the fire forcefully. Although the Fourth Revolution Dragon Vortex Fire was powerful, it was only enough to hurt intermediate or late gold core experts. To him, it was like scratching an itch through his boots. If it wasn't for the fact that the corpse was afraid of fire, he wouldn't even try to resist the black demon flame. Although I can resist this fire, once my magical power is exhausted and I don't have a container to replenish it, I will definitely be seriously injured in the fire. It's better for me to escape today. In the midst of the flames, he patted his storage pouch. Immediately, vein opening and harmonious spirit refined corpses rushed out of the pouch and rushed straight into the sea of fire. They were immediately engulfed by the sea of fire, but the power of the fire had been worn down. Hundreds of refined corpses had been consumed. The black corpse effortlessly broke a hole in the Fourth Revolution Dragon Vortex Fire and immediately retreated. Ning Fan's eyes froze when he saw this scene from afar. I must never let this devil go today. Otherwise, given this devil's ruthless personality, he would definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Fifth Revolution. His face turned slightly pale. He forcefully activated the Fifth Revolution of the Dragon Vortex Fire. Even though his spirit sense had broken through to early nascent soul realm, it was still extremely difficult for him to cast the 5th revolution dragon vortex fire. His magical power was rapidly depleted like a clay ox entering the sea. After swallowing a dozen pills, the medicinal power turned into magical power, but it still seemed to be insufficient. Ning Fan immediately crushed 2 bitter pills in his mouth. Amidst the bitter taste, he barely had enough magical power to sustain the 5th revolution dragon vortex fire. The 5th revolution of the dragon vortex fire drew a trace of heaven and earth force, increasing the power of the fire by a few times. Even a nascent soul cultivator would be injured if he was drawn into the vortex. The black corpse who almost escaped from the flame was immediately sucked back into the vortex. As the 5th revolution dragon vortex fire burned him, he immediately let out a miserable cry. Ning Fan! Don't force me. Humph. I won't force you. I will only kill you. Fine. This old man will let you see what it means to destroy a country with 10,000 corpses. The black corpse's body trembled in anger. He shook the black pouch and nearly 1,000 giant harmonious spirit flying corpses flew out from it. They dived into the flame and self-detonated, blowing up the 5th revolution dragon vortex fire. After that, he didn't stop and flipped the black pouch over. Nearly 6,000 vein-opening refined corpses, 2,000 harmonious spirit corpses and 100 gold core refined corpses emitted a putrid stench as they dispersed the flame and pounced towards Ning Fan. Ning Fan's eyes changed. 10,000 corpses. The black corpse's name of 10,000 corpses destroying a country was actually true. But so what if it was 10,000 corpses? Ning Fan closed his eyes and started again with sword light flashing in his eyes. At this moment, the killing intent in his body had completely turned into the awe-inspiring aura of exterminating a group of ghosts in the demon sinister forest. Destroy. He uttered a word indifferently. A sword sense that emitted a faint black chi spread out. All the refined corpses that were wrapped in the sword sense, whether they were vein-opening or harmonious spirit refined corpses, were directly minced into meat paste by the sword chi. Out of the 100 gold core refined corpses, 73 early gold core refined corpses were severed from the waist. As for the intermediate and late gold core refined corpses, even if they didn't die, they were still heavily injured by the sword sense. The so-called 10,000 corpses was actually destroyed by Ning Fan's magical technique. At this moment, the black corpse's expression changed drastically. He had never thought that Ning Fan had the legendary sword consciousness and sword sense. If he knew this earlier, he wouldn't have sent out the refined corpses to besiege Ning Fan. At most, he would have sent the intermediate and late gold core refined corpses to deal with Ning Fan. Sword sense was the nightmare of the refined corpses and soul refinement cultivators. You actually have sword sense. You definitely don't have the bullshit yin-yang evil vein. You have the sword divine vein and you are a person of the sword world. This old man will fight you to the death. The black corpse's eyes suddenly revealed a crazed look, as if he had a deep grudge against the people of the sword world. But all of this had nothing to do with Ning Fan. Under the black corpse's control, the 27 slightly injured intermediate and late gold core refined corpses flew towards Ning Fan and let out a strange roar. Each of them seemed like they were going to self-detonate, intending to perish together with Ning Fan. Ning Fan teleported 1,000 zhang away with a trace of ruthlessness in his eyes. The 5th revolution of the dragon vortex was his limit, but it wasn't enough to eliminate the black corpse. So, he had to fight. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence on the black demon flame in front of him. It immediately increased the power of the black demon flame, but it was still far from the 6th revolution of the dragon vortex. When the refined corpses approached him again, Ning Fan teleported away and spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood essence. His face was already pale, but the power of the flame still hadn't reached the 6th revolution. Not enough, again. With another teleportation, he increased the distance between them again. This time, Ning Fan heavily punched his chest, causing his chi to weaken rapidly. Then, he spat out mouthfuls of blood essence on the black demon flame as if he didn't care about his life. The dragon vortex fire danced violently and turned into a huge fire dragon that stretched for thousands of zhan. The huge vortex was the mouth of the fire dragon. At this moment, the spiritual force within hundreds of thousands of li of Yu country seemed to be mobilized by this magical technique. Each of the cultivators was dumbfounded as they looked at the illusory black dragon in the sky. Within the black shadow, there was a trace of demonic power of a true dragon that gradually took shape. At the moment when the demonic power took shape, the eyes of the fire dragon suddenly revealed an indifferent and disdainful look. The sixth revolution of the dragon vortex could completely condense the shadow of a true dragon. The level of this technique could only be comprehended by peak nascent soul cultivators. Although Ning Fan's realm was low, the power of this technique was more than enough to severely injure the black corpse. Madman, this is a madman. He wants to fight me to the death. Why? This old man and I have a deep hatred towards each other. A trace of fear rose in the black corpse's heart. If it was an ordinary cultivator, he would surely stop and negotiate with the black corpse after seeing that he wasn't easy to deal with. But this Ning Fan simply wanted to fight to the death with the black corpse. His whole body was sucked into the dragon's mouth. In an instant, the black corpse immediately felt that the corpse that he was proud of was melting rapidly. Unless he was at his peak, he could barely resist the sixth revolution dragon flame. Now that he was trapped in the flame, he would be severely injured even if he didn't die. Die! Ning Fan's breath was as thin as a gossamer. With so much blood essence spurting out, his injuries were too severe. But in order to eliminate the black corpse, he didn't care about anything. Under his control, the black flame dragon opened its mouth and roared, spitting out countless black fireballs. The fireballs exploded outside the bodies of the gold core refined corpses, turning into a whirlpool of flames. The power of each of them wasn't any weaker than the fifth revolution dragon vortex fire. Almost in an instant, all the refined corpses turned into ashes. The black corpse, who was in the middle of the sea of flames, had a feeling that he was going to die. The flames were enough to severely injure him, but not enough to kill him. But when Ning Fan's murderous gaze fell on him, the black corpse's heart shuddered. Black torrent spirit splitting technique. Ning Fan pointed at his glabella. His sea of consciousness turned into black sword shadows, rushing out of his head and circling in the sky. The sword chi was like a black tide, diving into the black flame, setting off waves of raging waves in the sea of flames. Just like how it dealt with Tian Yitzi, thousands of swords were like the wind, engulfing the black corpse. Break, break, break. Ning Fan ferociously crushed all the pills, pouring all his magical power and spirit sense into this attack. If there was enmity, there must be a life and death battle. This was what the old monster had taught him. After a series of whistling sounds of swords breaking and flames dispersing, Ning Fan finally couldn't withstand the counterforce of the magical technique. He was hit by the heat wave of the magical technique and fell to the ground, coughing out blood non-stop. Countless fire shadows and sword chi shattered in the clear sky, revealing a charred corpse that was riddled with thousands of holes. This corpse no longer had any signs of decay. It was completely charred while the soul of the black corpse was completely incinerated into nothingness. Even so, this corpse wasn't destroyed. Was this the strength of a body that was close to the edge of corpse devil? If it was the real corpse devil in his cauldron ring, how strong would its body be? Ning Fan breathed for a long time before he forced himself to stand up. He looked at the charred corpse from afar, muttering to himself. There was no joy of victory, only a trace of calmness. Moksha Emperor, I'm getting closer to you step by step. One day, you will end up like this corpse. He said plainly. Ning Fan was calm because he had a stronger enemy. So, he would never be complacent before he killed Moksha Emperor. However, the cultivators of Ning City began to have their doubts after the clash of magical techniques. On the ancient battlefield thousands of miles away, the clash of magical techniques was too intense. It was truly a rare battle in Yu country for thousands of years. As for the result of this battle, they were most concerned about it. Who won? Was it Black Devil Ning and Ning Fan, or the Black Corpse that annihilated the 7 countries? Under the nervous gaze of the cultivators, Suqiu and Jingzhuo returned to Ning City by treading on the escaping light. The former's beautiful face still had a trace of surprise while the latter's face was full of sighs. It could be said to be extremely complicated. Jingzhuo's expression made the hearts of the cultivators sink. The impatient Bu Kuangfen asked straightforwardly. "Old ancestor, why are you frowning? Could it be that Black Devil Ning was defeated by that corpse devil?" "Defeated? Cough cough cough, you all can see for yourselves." Jingzhuo suddenly turned his head and looked afar. All the cultivators followed Jingzhuo's gaze and vaguely saw a white-clothed and black-cloaked youth treading on the escaping light in the distant sky. The young man's qi seemed to be extremely weak, causing the ray of light he was traveling to become slightly unstable. However, his gaze was as calm as before. In his hand was a charred black corpse, as if he was showing off his spoils of war. Needless to say, all the cultivators felt relieved. The black corpse had been eliminated. There was no doubt about it. But whether this white-clothed and black-cloaked youth was Ning Fan or Black Devil Ning, one should know that Ning Fan and Black Devil Ning looked exactly the same. Bu Kuangfen gave old ancestor Jingzhuo a resentful glance. It was extremely strange for a burly man like him to have such an expression. "Old ancestor, you are really something. Since Master Black Devil has won, you should at least be happy. Why do you have to frown and make us worry? Happy, cough cough cough." Jingzhuo indeed should be happy, but he couldn't. He had been oppressed by the black corpse, but Ning Fan had cast the 6 revolution dragon fire that was comparable to a peak nascent realm magical technique and burnt the black corpse into a charred corpse. Jingzhuo knew that the one who eliminated the black corpse wasn't Black Devil Ning, but Ning Fan. There was no such thing as a bullshit Black Devil Ning in this world. Therefore, he couldn't help but sigh. Was Ning Fan really an 18-year-old youth? Jingzhuo was more willing to accept that Ning Fan was a 4th revolution pill master and a nascent soul cultivator who had lived for hundreds and thousands of years. However, he was afraid that Jingzhuo was the only one who felt this way. The other cultivators were cheering for Ning Fan. After Ning Fan landed in Ning City, Nangong, who had chased after the ship of Extreme Eam Gate, returned with his men. The battle between the Yu and Devil armies had ended. Ning Fan was afraid that he would have to embark on the path of core formation. Weak as he was, he didn't even have time to rest before Jihe rushed into his arms, almost causing him to fall. Suqiu Xianzi was the first one to fall to the ground. "Aya. Brother Fan, quickly take a look. What happened to Suqiu Xianzi? Why did she faint?" He exclaimed. This is, Ning Fan's face turned ugly as he scanned the unconscious Suqiu with his spirit sense. Suqiu had been poisoned. Although the poison wasn't strong, it had gone deep into her body. It would be quite troublesome to detoxify it. He secretly said in his heart that he was being rude, but his palm was placed on Suqiu's feet. Sure enough, it's the poison from that time, this stubborn woman. She didn't even say anything when she was poisoned. She had been acting tough until now. Ning Fan shook his head gently, but he had a trace of admiration for Suqiu. Chapter 139. The destruction of Extreme Eam Gate and the reappearance of the corpse devil 2,000 years ago had almost plunged Yu country into the crisis of extinction. In this battle, there were 3 nascent soul experts. During the battle, the dragon fire phenomenon was vaguely seen by all the experts in Yu country. The ancient battlefield that was the location of the decisive battle had been scorched into ruins within 100 miles. Not even a blade of grass could be seen. The cultivators who came to investigate the place stared with their mouths agape. There were even more cultivators who came to Ning City to meet the two nascent soul experts, Black Devil Ning and Jingzhua. But now, Ning City was under martial law. Jingzhua and Black Devil Ning were in seclusion. The one who received the cultivators was Nangong with a gentle smile. Ask me if you have any questions. Of course, I can't guarantee that what I said is the truth. Nangong sat on the high seat, leisurely enjoying his fragrant tea. At the side, a few sect masters of second-rate sects immediately handed over their storage pouches obediently with smiles on their faces. He, as the right-hand man of Lord Black Demon, Vice City Lord Nangong naturally has a lot of secrets that he can't tell you. It's understandable. This is just a small token of my respect, there's no need to be so courteous. I can't accept it, absolutely can't accept it. Nangong pretended to decline. The few sect masters gritted their teeth, took out a few more storage pouches and handed them over respectfully. Only then did Nangong reluctantly accept these valuable gifts. He scanned the storage pouches with his spirit sense and was afraid that there were at least 10,000 immortal jades inside. It's hard to refuse such kindness. Alright, I'll clear up some of your doubts. If you have any questions, please be frank with me. May I ask if the expert who killed the corpse devil is Master Black Devil? Rumor has it that Master Black Devil is revered Ning of Sinister Sparrow sect, is this true? Of course it's nonsense. My young master is absolutely not a nascent soul expert or even a gold core expert. I can swear on my heart's devil. Nangong made a solemn vow, but it wasn't a lie. It was true that Ning Fan was just a half-step gold core expert. However, he wouldn't tell them whether Black Devil Ning was Ning Fan or not. Wasn't it better to be mysterious? Why did Vice City Lord Nan make the great vow of the Heart Devil? How could we dare to ask other questions? Each of the old monsters showed a look of shame, as if they owed Master Nangong a favor. However, their intention of befriending Ning City became firmer. It's nothing. Nangong smiled and shook his head. At the side, Yuchi revealed a look of worship, while Situ, a rare muscle twitched. Nangong was indeed worthy of being Nangong. After duping these old monsters of Yu country, 10,000 immortal jades were already in his hands. Nangong wouldn't keep this money for his own use, but for the construction of Ning City. The reason why Ning City didn't lack money was because of Nangong's contribution. Allow me to explain the details of this battle to you fellow Taoists. As soon as Nangong spoke, all the old monsters sat on their seats and listened attentively, fearing that they would miss a single detail. Every time they heard something horrifying, even those old monsters' expressions would change slightly. When they heard the last part of the story, Black Devil Ning came in black, turned into a black shadow, annihilated Tian Yitzi, and killed the corpse devil in a blink. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. The elusive Black Devil Ning was actually so powerful. Vice City Lord Nan, can you make an exception and let us meet Master Black Devil? I'm afraid this might be a little troublesome. Everyone should know that our Black Devil City Lord has gone into seclusion again after the battle. I'm afraid that he won't come out for a few decades. Of course, if Ning City is in danger, he will still lend a hand. It's understandable, but we really don't have the fortune to meet each other. Pity. Nangong was in charge of receiving the cultivators of Yu country. Situ was in charge of reorganizing the casualties and reorganizing the 4 guards of Ning City. Yuchi was in charge of repairing the underground fire vein. Ning Fan, the hands-off boss, was currently in a secret chamber, regulating his breathing. On the bed beside him was Yin Suchio, who had been unconscious for 3 days. The poison had been temporarily suppressed by the pills. However, this poison was too powerful. Even the Void Primordial Pill of the Great Void sect could not get rid of it completely. Even though it was not difficult to neutralize it, the process would be quite troublesome. Thus, Ning Fan could only adjust his breathing and slightly stabilize his injuries. The battle with the Black Corpse had caused him severe injuries. In order to advance the Dragon Vortex fire to the 6th revolution and threaten the Black Corpse, Ning Fan had consumed a lot of blood essence. His divine soul was already deficient because he had severed his soul and molded his incarnation. Now that he had lost his blood essence, his body's primordial chi was greatly depleted. Without any special means, he would need at least a few decades of seclusion to recover his blood essence. It was inevitable that his lifespan would be shortened. Perhaps, Ning Fan's current lifespan was less than 200 years. He sat cross-legged on the cushion. The spoils of the battle were displayed on the ground in front of him. Ning Fan closed his eyes slightly, contemplating the gains and losses of the battle. Old Devil Purple Een had quite a number of high-grade magical arts, such as the nascent realm magical art Wind Soul Claw. However, this kind of magical art could only be used by wind spirit cultivators and was useless to Ning Fan. However, Ning Fan was very interested in one of the cultivation methods of Old Devil Purple Een. Een Evil Art. This cultivation method was to cultivate the Een Pearl technique. In Extreme Een Gate, everyone, from the old ancestor to the disciples, cultivated this technique. However, this technique of Old Devil Purple Een was certainly of a higher level than the others. This technique not only recorded the process of condensing the Een Pearl, but also the method to fuse the Een Pearl with the gold core. According to Ning Fan's estimation, if he could condense the Een Pearl and fuse it with the gold core like Old Devil Purple Een, his gold core would be stronger and sturdier than ordinary people. Moreover, it would increase his chances of breaking through to the nascent soul realm by at least 10%. This technique was quite useful to Ning Fan, but before he formed his gold core, he wouldn't be able to use it. Apart from this magical art to fuse the gold core, among the spoils of Old Devil Purple Een, there was only a purple alms bowl that could attract Ning Fan's attention. This purple alms bowl was a high-grade intermediate magical treasure. However, it seemed to be fused with a trace of spirit intent. As a result, it could absorb all the magical treasures that attacked Purple Een into it. Apart from that, there was nothing else in Old Devil Purple Yin's possessions that could move Ning Fan's heart. Ning Fan's vision was pretty high. However, the storage of the Black Corpse couldn't be underestimated by Ning Fan. Apart from all the magical treasures and pills, the thing that caught Ning Fan's attention the most was an ancient fiend god cultivation method, Corpse Devil Record. This cultivation method recorded the method to open the corpse devil vein and the method to turn a corpse into an immortal 3 times. Apart from that, there were also several ancient fiend god divine abilities. Ning Fan already had the Yin Yang devil vein, so it was impossible for him to cultivate the corpse devil vein. However, the ancient fiend god divine abilities made Ning Fan's eyes light up. The memories of ancient chaos didn't contain any fiend god divine abilities, but compared to the corpse devil record, it contained the lifetime experience and memories of an immortal emperor. It was hard to say which one was better, but these divine abilities were still very useful to Ning Fan. Corpse Transformation Technique. This technique stimulated the corpse chi of the corpse devil vein and could directly refine a cultivator into a living corpse. Third corpse pupil. This pupil required the cultivator to cultivate the corpse devil vein and open the heavenly eye vein between the eyebrows. If he could successfully cultivate the third corpse pupil, he wouldn't mind using the illusory technique, but using the trace of 3 corpses' evil sense was what tempted Ning Fan. Every cultivator had 3 corpses. Even a true immortal would be afraid of the evil sense. The evil sense of the Black Corpse was only superficial and not considered as the 3 corpses' evil sense. Not to mention Ning Fan, even among the true immortals in the 4 heavens immortal world, only a few of them could do so. Unfortunately, he didn't have the corpse devil vein, so he couldn't open the 3rd vertical eye. The reason why the 3rd corpse pupil needed the 3rd vertical eye to store the evil sense was because the evil sense couldn't be touched by the cultivator himself. He could only open another vein to store it. If I found another way to store the evil sense, I might be able to use my eyes to store the evil sense. Ning Fan pondered. If that was the case, he could use the third corpse pupil even without the third eye. The only thing he needed to worry about was how to resist the evil sense of the three corpses. Perhaps, the black-clothed incarnation could resist it. After all, that incarnation didn't have a heart or mind. If that was the case, he could give it a try. Apart from these, the black corpse also had a few powerful body-refining techniques. One of them was the colossal bone secret art, which allowed him to transform into a 10 zhang tall giant. To Ning Fan, this technique was extremely useful. And the biggest loot was probably, the black corpse itself. The black corpse had been burnt into a charred corpse by Ning Fan. The strength of the corpse's body made Ning Fan understand it. If he could refine this corpse into a refined corpse, it would be a pretty good fighter. Perhaps, with this refined corpse, he would be able to fight against ordinary nascent soul realm cultivators. Apart from that, there were many other spoils of war. But when Suqiu Xianzi moaned on the bed, Ning Fan didn't have time to think about these things anymore. The secret chamber was made of stone and covered with silk. A girl in light yellow clothes was sleeping. Judging from her appearance, she was just a young girl who hadn't seen the world. But those who knew her would know that she was an old monster who had lived for 600 years. She was the old ancestor of the Great Void sect, Yin Suqiu. Her delicate eyebrows were tightly knitted in pain even though she was in a coma. The moaning was just her groan. During the battle that day, she was ambushed by the black corpse and was poisoned by the death silkworm poison. If an ordinary gold core realm cultivator was poisoned by this poison, they would probably die immediately. But Suqiu used her powerful strength to suppress the poison. She only fainted when the battle ended. The reason for the poison was most likely because Ning Fan had asked her to chase after the black corpse to activate her magical power. At the end of the day, it was Ning Fan's fault that the poison acted up. Ning Fan once again understood this girl's stubbornness. She didn't even say anything when she was poisoned. If it was Jihe, she would have screamed the moment she was poisoned. This girl's heart was firm enough to seek the Tao. No wonder she could become an old ancestor of the Great Void sect in just 600 years of cultivation. It was impossible for Ning Fan to ignore the death of this girl. After all, he was touched when this girl rushed to help Ning City alone. If that's the case, I'm sorry, Ning Fan murmured in a low voice as if he was talking to himself. Immediately, he lifted Suqiu Xianzi's skirt that no one had lifted in the past 600 years. There was another skirt that was lifted by Ning Fan. Immediately, Suqiu Xianzi's jade-like legs were exposed. However, there were purplish-red veins on her jade-like legs, as if a silkworm was crawling on her legs. The skirt was lifted all the way to her calf's knee before it stopped. The purplish-red veins stopped there. There was no need to continue lifting the skirt. If Suqiu were to continue lifting the skirt, it would be troublesome even if she woke up after she was cured of the poison. It was a very beautiful leg. Although it was slightly introverted due to sitting on the praying mat all day long, the shape of the leg was quite similar to the legs of the women of Ing country who were kneeling for a long time. Ning Fan's mind had a fleeting thought, but he immediately extinguished it. He blamed himself and collected his thoughts. He took off Suqiu's shoes and silk socks, revealing a pair of jade-like feet. Different from Suqiu's slightly flawed legs, her feet were like natural jade ornaments, almost perfect. However, her feet were too sensitive. When Ning Fan accidentally touched her toes, the unconscious Suqiu immediately let out a soft gasp. And, this gasp made Ning Fan's mind swayed. He held the jade-like feet in his hand. His heart was momentarily disturbed by the heart devil. What I am holding is the feet of the noblest woman in Yu country. No matter how high she is, she still has to be played by me. This voice made Ning Fan lose his mind for a moment, but immediately, a cold light formed in his eyes, crushing this evil thought. Get lost. After suppressing the heart devil, Ning Fan's eyes regained their clarity and apologized in his heart. In any sense, he had profaned Suqiu Xianzi. It was really a waste for him to have evil thoughts towards his benefactor. The dead silkworm poison isn't difficult to cure. It's not difficult to cure it by concocting the medicinal liquid of 17,000 years old spiritual herbs according to the silkworm's poison. But first, I need to guide the poison back to the place where it was poisoned, Ning Fan sighed. His hands were placed on both of Suqiu's knees. He secretly circulated his magical power and guided the poison back to her feet. Cold and smooth, unknowingly, Suqiu Xianzi's light gasp seemed to have quickened. When the poison returned slightly, she woke up, but she didn't dare to open her eyes because she found that her calf was being stroked by Ning Fan back and forth. What is he doing? How dare he? Suqiu Xianzi almost wanted to slap Ning Fan, this frivolous man. But immediately, she found out that Ning Fan was curing her poison, her heart softened. Since it was curing poison, how could she refuse? But she mustn't open her eyes. Otherwise, both of them would be extremely embarrassed. As such, she could only endure the heat from Ning Fan's palm to her calf, ankle and toes. Her feet were too sensitive, as if she could sense the number of palm prints on Ning Fan's palm. Her face gradually turned red, but her heart was painfully enduring. It would be fine if she was unconscious, but when she woke up, she would never let out that shameful moan. As an old ancestor of the righteous path, how could she be so submissive? However, the more she endured, the redder her face became. Although her state of mind didn't lose control, her body became more and more numb. Hurry up, help me, detoxify the poison. In her heart, she secretly prayed that Ning Fan could hurry up and end this abnormal nightmare of hers. Chapter 141. A slight mist spread out, making it hard to see her skin. And this woman couldn't let go of one thing in her heart. At this moment, the door opened and Ning Fan's teasing voice came from outside. Cici, where are you feeling uncomfortable? Do you need master to check? Oh, there's the sound of water, are you bathing? I'm coming in. Wait. Wuxia immediately pursed her lips and jumped out of the wooden tub. She used her magical power to evaporate the water. Then, she waved her hand and clothes flew into her hands. She quickly put them on. It seemed that because her mind was in a mess, she buttoned her clothes wrongly. But it was too late to put them on again because Ning Fan had already pushed the door open with a smile on his face, approaching Wuxia step by step. Smells good, very clean, not bad. I heard from Jiha that you are not feeling well and asked me to treat your illness, but it seems like you are trying to seduce master. Is it a heart disease? Don't touch me. Facing the approaching Ning Fans, Wuxia looked slightly nervous. She flicked her sleeve and a sword shadow appeared in her palm, pointing straight at Ning Fan's chest. Ning Fans stopped his footsteps. His face no longer had a teasing smile as he secretly sighed. Sure enough, this woman had recovered her memory. She was no longer the silly little girl who longed for him to pamper her even in her dreams. Wuxia, you really have recovered your memory. Tell me, what do you want? I want the nascent formation Dan. If you don't give it to me, I will kill you. There was a trace of coldness in Wuxia's eyes. All of her memories had been recovered. She remembered that it was the young man in front of her who single-handedly destroyed Heaven Beast sect, humiliated, imprisoned her, erased her memory and made her into a spiritual puppet. And after she lost her memory, she was like a maidservant, serving this man respectfully. This made Wuxia feel humiliated. Every time she regained a trace of her memory, her killing intent towards Ning Fan would grow stronger. Even now, when she was teased by Ning Fan, she couldn't wait to stab Ning Fan's chest with her sword, but her hands were trembling. This trembling didn't escape Ning Fan's eyes. This sword was only a middle-grade magical treasure. Ning Fan's body refining realm was already silver bone, so this sword couldn't hurt him at all. What Ning Fan was most concerned about was Si Wuxia's attitude. The reason why he teased her when he entered the room was just to hide the nervousness in his heart. From the bottom of his heart, Ning Fan didn't want to see Cece turn back into her enemy, Si Wuxia, but it seemed like this wish was an extravagant hope. You want the nascent soul pill? Is this the reason why you lent me a hand in Ning City that day? Ning Fan sighed. Yes. What else do you think? Sure. I happen to have one more nascent formation pill. Since old devil Purple Een is dead, his pill will belong to you. Ning Fan slightly closed his eyes and patted his storage pouch. He took out a delicate jade box and threw it to Si Wuxia. You've already obtained the nascent formation pill. What are you going to do next? Humph, for the sake of the nascent soul formation pill, I will spare your life. From today onwards, we don't owe each other anything. Si Wuxia seemed a little weak. You're leaving. You don't want to kill me. Is it because you don't dare or you can't bear it? Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes and stared at Si Wuxia's eyes, as if he was trying to find the trace of Cece. Humph, I'm just too lazy to kill you. Don't bother me anymore. Otherwise, I'll kill you. You can't kill me. Ning Fan flicked his finger on the long sword in Si Wuxia's hand. The long sword trembled and immediately shattered into pieces. Only a body refinement realm expert who had broken through to the silver bone realm could shatter a sword with a flick of his finger. After shattering Si Wuxia's magical treasure, Ning Fan seized the opportunity and pulled Si Wuxia into his embrace. Si Wuxia was shocked to find that she, a peak gold core expert, didn't even have the strength to struggle in Ning Fan's embrace. How can you be so powerful? A year ago, you couldn't even withstand my attack, and, let go of me. Otherwise. Don't worry, Si Wuxia. This hug isn't for you, but for Cece. You can leave now. I won't keep you here or erase your memory. However, if you dare to harm Ning City or Ji He, when I ascend to the four heavens immortal world in the future, I will let everyone know that the Saintess of Jade Lake struggled in my embrace. Ning Fan's threatening words didn't contain any killing intent, but when Si Wuxia heard it, her expression changed immediately. How dare you? If you dare to ruin my reputation, I'll. Si Wuxia fell into Ning Fan's embrace and couldn't break free. She sadly realized that she had no words to threaten Ning Fan. The Saintess of Jade Lake must be a pure and holy woman. She couldn't tolerate any blasphemy. Not to mention that she had been seen naked by Ning Fan, let alone this hug. Even if a man touched her finger, it would be a great sin. She was unwilling, but even if she recovered her memory, Si Wuxia still wasn't Ning Fan's opponent and couldn't even escape from his embrace. But at this moment, Ning Fan loosened his grip and casually sat on a nearby table. He poured out the jade pot and drank some wine. You can leave now, before I change my mind. His back was facing Si Wuxia, exposing all his flaws. But Si Wuxia felt that even if Ning Fan's back was facing her, once she attacked, Ning Fan could easily kill her. She couldn't bear to kill Ning Fan, but she also didn't think of harming Ning City. She was still CC, a CC who had obtained Si Wuxia's memory. She wouldn't hurt Ji He. She didn't expect that it would be so easy for her to ask for a nascent formation pill from Ning Fan's hand. Her original threats seemed to be useless now. She also didn't expect that Ning Fan's strength was far stronger than her and would let her go. With Ning Fan's strength, it shouldn't be difficult for him to erase her memory and remake her into a spiritual puppet. She still didn't believe it and went out the door with her wet hair. Sure enough, Ning Fan didn't stop her. Why didn't he stop me and kill me? Si Wuxia tiptoed and soared into the sky. None of the evil cultivators in Ning City chased after her. They just let this woman leave on the moon. After Si Wuxia left, Nangong walked in from the shadows outside the door. He looked at Ning Fan who was drinking and asked in confusion. Young lord, is it appropriate to let this person go like this? This person is the sect master of Heaven Separation sect. He has a blood feud with Ning City and Seven Apricot City. Blood feud? Not to that extent. Her hatred towards me is only to destroy Heaven Separation sect and ruin her plan. I don't know what her plan is in the lower world, and I don't want to know. But I can be sure that a great figure above the four heavens is only a small matter to a mere Heaven Separation sect in the lower world. With her innocence as a threat, she won't do anything drastic. According to her personality, she will run as far away as possible, afraid that I will go back on my words and capture her. Ning Fan was still drinking. Young lord, these words aren't from your heart. Nangong frowned. I can't hide anything from you. I can't bear to kill her. No, it's not that I can't bear to kill Si Wuxia, it's that I can't bear to kill Cece. If I erase her memory again, perhaps. I will erase Cece as well. Forget it, that's good. This woman won't be able to stir up any big waves. My enemy is far more terrifying than this Si Wuxia. Nangong, I will temporarily leave for these 10 days. I will return after 10 days. At this moment, Ning Fan put down the wine cup and went out the door, disappearing into the night. Si Wuxia's grudge was settled like this. Next, there were still some trivial matters that needed to be dealt with. It was a very complicated matter that was hard to give up. Inside the room, Nangong deeply sighed. Young lord isn't cold-blooded enough, but perhaps this is the reason why the Lord accepted him as a disciple. In the snowstorm of Seven Apricot City, a young man was treading on the snow alone. He wore a white robe on the inside and a black cloak on the outside. The black cloak had black feathers that looked like a cloak, giving this thin and pale young man an invisible heroic spirit. The moment he stepped into Seven Apricot City, there were immediately dozens of evil cultivators at the city gate, as if they were facing a great enemy. They couldn't sense the aura of this young man at all. Even when the young man came close to the city gate, they could only see him with their naked eyes and couldn't sense his aura. Who was this person? Could he be a gold-core old devil? These evil cultivators that were guarding the city were newly recruited by the four families of Seven Apricot City after the three divine armies left. Their aura was not as strong as the three divine armies, and their courage and knowledge were even worse. Some of them had never seen a gold-core old devil before. It was even more impossible for these people to know the young man that the old monster brought back to Seven Apricot City. Who is it? A few vein-opening evil cultivators gathered their courage and asked. Young lord of Seven Apricot Ning Fans smiled faintly and waved his sleeve. A gentle breeze blew away the weapons of the evil cultivators and entered the city. In the snowstorm, after hearing Ning Fan's name, the evil cultivators were immediately stunned like ice sculptures. It's revered Ning of Sinister Sparrow sect. No, the young lord has returned. This is my Seven Apricot young lord, such a sharp aura. Scared me to death. I thought that the person who came was one of those righteous cultivators that came on a sword. Humph, those people are only harmonious spirit cultivators, yet they dared to shout at the city lord. They really don't know the rules. These unintentional words of the evil cultivators were not loud, but how could it escape Ning Fan's ears? In a flash, Ning Fan suddenly stopped his footsteps and his eyes flashed a trace of cold light. You just said that someone came to my Seven Apricot City to cause trouble. Replying to young lord, it is true. I heard that those people have a great background. It seems that they have some grudges with the city lord. Before the evil cultivators could finish their words, they saw a soul-stirring murderous intent rising from the young man in front of them. Within the murderous intent, there was also a trace of worry. His spirit sense swept out and covered 1,000 li of land. In the Si Fan Palace of Seven Apricot City, he immediately sensed dozens of tyrannical qi. Among them, there were even a few people who dared to dig a grave, Little Duga's grave. Who is it? How dare you? A cold harumph came out from Ning Fan's mouth. It carried an indescribable pressure. In an instant, the faces of several burly men who were digging the graves turned pale. They coughed out blood and retreated. Their faces were filled with fear. This is a nascent soul old devil. Chapter 142. If he didn't sense that the old monster was fine, Ning Fan would have used his sword sense to kill these cultivators one by one. He had cultivated for 2 years and rarely got angry, but this didn't mean that he didn't have a reverse scale. 7 Apricot City was his reverse scale. Si Fan Palace. Before the grave diggers could recover from the shocking voice, they saw a black light flickering in the sky. In front of each of them, under the snow apricot flowers, a young man appeared out of thin air. This young man had a cold expression. There was a star on his glabella and sword chi was soaring in his eyes. In front of this young man, each of the cultivators felt that they weren't facing a person, but a sword. A devil's sword that swept through the ages, killed gods and Buddhas, and had an invincible baleful aura. This was Ning Fan in the eyes of ordinary cultivators. Among this group of harmonious spirit cultivators, the higher their cultivation, the deeper their perception of the young man's sword chi. Each of these cultivators was wearing a silver sword robe. Each of them carried 4 flying swords on their back. On their silver robes, there was a sword mark embroidered on them. Behind the grave diggers stood a young man with a pale face. He seemed to be around 25 or 26 years old and was a late harmonious spirit cultivator. To have such a cultivation in his 20s, his aptitude was extremely monstrous. This person was obviously the leader of this group of cultivators. The flying swords on his back weren't just 4, but 6. Sensing Ning Fan's terrifying chi, the pale young man frowned slightly, but he didn't panic. He separated the crowd and walked to the front, clasped his fists, and said with a hint of arrogance. "This friend, we, the sword guards of the sword world, are here for private matters. Those who have nothing to do with this, please leave quickly and don't get involved." Sword world. Ning Fan's eyes slightly narrowed. He seemed to recall that the old monster and the sword world did have some grudges. This old man's Tao companion seemed to be the beloved daughter of a great figure in the sword world. And this little Dugu who was buried here also seemed to have the same identity. Could it be that the grave diggers were the relatives of little Dugu? Otherwise, if they didn't have a great background, how could they enter the Rain Immortal world? One should know that the immortal worlds had strict control over each other. They wouldn't easily allow cultivators from other worlds to enter their own worlds. If this group of cultivators had a great background in the sword world, then they would be allowed to enter the Rain Immortal world. The reason why these cultivators were only at the harmonious spirit realm was probably because they were following the arrangements of the Rain Immortal world and did not dare to send any experts to this world. If that was the case, Ning Fan could understand why the old monster didn't stop these people from entering Si Fan Palace and wasn't angry at them. With the old monster's personality, even if he lost all of his cultivation base, he wouldn't allow anyone to enter Si Fan Palace, the place where he once lived with his Tao companion. Seeing that Ning Fan remained silent after hearing the name of the sword world, the fair-skinned young man seemed to be quite proud of himself. So what if he was a nascent soul cultivator? In a barren land like the state of Yu, one could be the patriarch of a country. However, in the sword world, in the family of this fair-skinned young man, a nascent soul cultivator was just average. Since you know that the sword realm is doing something here, why aren't you retreating quickly? The fair-skinned young man seemed to have found the right to be arrogant. However, what he got in return was Ning Fan's cold eyes. Humph. So what if it's the sword realm? As Ning Fan's eyes turned serious, his sword sense swept across the place silently. A trace of deadly crisis suddenly rose in the hearts of dozens of sword cultivators, including the fair-skinned young man. In an instant, the fair-skinned young man withdrew all of his complacency, leaving only fear and disbelief on his face. Sword. Sword consciousness. Sword sense. You. He couldn't help but be shocked. A nascent soul cultivator might not be a big deal in the sword world, but a sword cultivator who possessed sword consciousness and sword sense was as rare as a phoenix feather and a unicorn horn in the sword world. Each of them was a void fragmentation sword emperor. A void fragmentation sword cultivator was not enough to be called a sword emperor. Ghost emperor, demon emperor, sword emperor. Anyone who had the word emperor in their name was an invincible existence. As for the sword world, it became the strongest immortal world below the devil world, demon world and heaven immortal world. Each of the sword emperor old ancestors could kill countless low-level cultivators with a single thought. The fair-skinned young man couldn't believe that Ning Fan in front of him was a genius sword cultivator who had the potential to become a sword emperor. Moreover, the sword chi in Ning Fan's sword sense was extremely weak, but it was overbearing enough to kill all cultivators below the early gold core realm. What made the fair-skinned young man even more incredulous was that Ning Fan still dared to kill them despite knowing that they had a great background in the sword world. Ning Fan didn't hesitate to offend a sword emperor old ancestor of the sword world to kill them. He's a madman. Just as Ning Fan was about to kill them, a voice came from the grave and outside the courtyard. Ning Fan, don't kill them. Fan Air, stop. After the two voices, the soul of a beautiful woman flew out from the grave and stood under the plum tree. Outside the courtyard, a black-robed old man staggered into the courtyard. The woman wore a white robe. Her shoulders were smooth and slender. Her black hair was like a waterfall. Her waist was slender and there was a plum blossom on her temple. She stood in the bleak wind and snow, looking noble and lonely like a plum blossom. Her eyes were sorrowful, but there was a trace of sad sword intent. Now that Ning Fan had comprehended the divine rain intent, he vaguely noticed that the sharp sword intent in her eyes was as special as the divine intent. Perhaps, this was the intent that a spirit-severing sword cultivator must comprehend in the sword world. Could little Dugu be a spirit-severing cultivator when she was alive? Looking at the old monster again, he was still wearing a black robe, but his insolent eyes had turned into silence. His black hair had turned white. It seemed like he hadn't lived a peaceful life in the past 2 years. This made Ning Fan feel a little sad. He sighed softly and his hostility towards Moksha Emperor deepened. If it wasn't for Moksha Emperor, the old monster might still be a true immortal and still be free and unfettered in the four heavens immortal world. If it wasn't for Moksha Emperor, the old monster might have already recovered his cultivation and roamed freely in the rain world. 2 years had passed, but 7 Apricot City seemed to have changed. While Ning Fan was observing little Dugu and the old monster, the two of them were also observing Ning Fan. Little Dugu's eyes revealed a trace of imperceptible joy when Ning Fan returned. When she sensed Ning Fan's nascent soul chi, sword sense and sword consciousness, she couldn't help but be surprised for a long time. Especially the sword chi in Ning Fan's sword sense. She didn't know where it came from, but it made little Dugu, who had comprehended the sword intent, feel a trace of fear. Sword intent. Ordinary cultivators could also comprehend the sword intent, but it was only the surface of the sword chi. It wasn't the true sword intent. Only spirit-severing cultivators could comprehend the true sword intent. Little Dugu had comprehended her own sword intent before the spirit-severing realm. In the past, she was known as one of the 3 heroes of the sword world. But even she didn't have the sword consciousness and sword sense like when she was in the nascent soul realm. For the first time, little Dugu realized that she couldn't see through Ning Fan. It wasn't only his personality, but also his cultivation. It was as if everything was shrouded in mist. In less than 2 years, he had become an expert of his generation. Little Dugu's sigh deepened. He had such a good aptitude, but why did he choose to cultivate the devil path? Her clan was one of the 3 royal clans of the sword world. Her father, the emperor, hated devil cultivators the most. The old devil and her elder sister were a tragedy. If Ning Fan wasn't a devil cultivator, how good would it be? Her mind was filled with wild thoughts. After thinking about many things, she finally remembered one thing. Not good. This little demon Ning once said that if he breaks through to the nascent soul realm, he will come back and take away my third sword chi. If it was any other time, he would just take it away. But now, if he takes away this sword chi in front of the people of the sword world, he will surely cause a great disaster. Compared to marrying little devil Ning, little Dugu was more worried about little devil Ning's safety. The old devil was also sizing Ning Fan up. For the first time, his silent expression revealed a gratified expression. Stinking brat, your incarnation is quite incredible. I was quite worried when I heard that you were going to the endless sea, but I'm relieved to see that you have such strength. This way, I will be able to walk a safer path. There was a hidden meaning in the old devil's words, and Ning Fan immediately understood it. Where do you want to go? Your current cultivation base. At this point, he stopped talking and glanced at the people of the sword world. Some words couldn't be said in front of these people. Han Yuanji will naturally follow us back to the sword world. My emperor has already heard about the matter of Moksha Emperor. This time, he came to bring the two ladies back. Of course, if Han Yuanji is thick-skinned and follows us back, my emperor will protect him for the sake of the two ladies. With my emperor's presence, even Moksha Emperor won't dare to do anything to Han Yuanji. With the old devil's support, the fair-skinned youth was sure that Ning Fan wouldn't dare to kill him, so he revealed his arrogant face again. After listening to the fair-skinned youth's words, Ning Fan didn't argue with him. Instead, he closed his eyes. With the old devil's character, he certainly wouldn't lower his face to beg others. If he didn't want to leave, a mere harmonious spirit cultivator wouldn't be able to stop him. Was he really afraid of Moksha Emperor? Afraid that Moksha Emperor would take his life after 100 years? If he was afraid, he wouldn't have stayed in the rain world in the past. He would have had countless opportunities to lower his head to the three emperors of the sword world. Perhaps the reason why he went back now was because he was worried about me. If the old devil went to the sword world, Moksha Emperor wouldn't come to the rain world to seek revenge after 100 years. Perhaps he would come to the sword world. The old devil was protecting me. Why do you have to be like this? Ning Fan opened his eyes and couldn't bear it. I'm not suffering. But you brat, you are always thinking about the 100 years of void fragmentation in your heart. This isn't good. Cultivators need perseverance and a little persistence to not lose themselves in the sea of blood. However, if that persistence becomes obsession and the obsession turns into a heart devil, 1,000 years of void fragmentation won't be a problem with your aptitude. Don't give yourself too much pressure. That might destroy you. The old devil laughed and patted Ning Fan's shoulder solemnly for the first time. Are you afraid that I won't be a match for Moksha Emperor after 100 years? That's right. I'm afraid. I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of something else. You are my only hope to save her. I can die, but you can't. I accepted you as my disciple with ulterior motives. Do you know that you can hate me? Given your personality, I would be surprised if you accepted me as your disciple without any ulterior motives. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be who I am today. Perhaps I would have escaped from the all-pleasure sect that day and died in a remote place without anyone knowing. No matter what the reason was for you to accept me as your disciple, this kindness has been planted. If you have any requests, I won't refuse. Ning Fan said solemnly. This pair of master and disciple didn't have much affection for each other. The reason why they were fated was because of benefits. The old devil accepted him as his disciple because he hoped to save someone. Ning Fan accepted him as his master because he was forced by death. But later on, the two of them gradually realized that their personalities were very compatible with each other. Gradually, the relationship between master and disciple began to accumulate. It was the old devil who gave Ning Fan the goal to cultivate the evil Tao. And Ning Fan gave the old devil the hope to save his lover. Ning Fan didn't ask the old devil what he wanted to do. He wouldn't refuse. He could see that this matter was extremely important to the old devil. It must be related to the girl he admired. I want to go to the sword world. I won't die. You don't need to put so much pressure on yourself. 100 years later, the ruins of the ancient heavenly court will open. Don't compete with Moksha Emperor. You just need to blend in and obtain the fortune. With your wisdom and means, even if you can't defeat Moksha Emperor, you can still protect yourself. As for my request, I can tell you some of it now. I guess you have already guessed it. I need you to save someone. It's that simple. Do you agree or not? Do I have a reason to refuse? Ning Fan smiled faintly. The old devil also laughed. On the side, the fair-skinned youth's face was full of pride. However, he was ignored by the two of them. This made his self-esteem suffer greatly. He didn't dare to do anything to Ning Fan. Then, he would teach the old devil a lesson on the way back to the sword world. Come. Second miss, please return to the sword world. Eldest miss, please return to the sword world. As for the Bluestone Sword Chi, second miss and the Sword Emperor had an agreement. If someone could take away 3 of the Sword Chi, second miss would not marry the grandson of the Divine Emperor. She would marry the person who took the sword. Now, there is only 1 Sword Chi left. Second miss has lost the bet. Before the fair-skinned youth came, he was warned repeatedly. It seemed that the imperial ancestor attached great importance to little Dugu's vow. After hearing this, little Dugu's face turned pale and revealed a look of extreme disgust. Even if I lost the bet, I still won't marry that person. Hee, this subordinate can't make the decision. Come, erase the Bluestone Sword Chi. This is the secret sword of the Sword Emperor. It must not be leaked. Under the command of the fair-skinned youth, a few harmonious spirit men immediately went to smash the Bluestone and destroy the Sword Chi. The secret sword of the Sword Emperor was extremely special. Outsiders would never be able to comprehend its profundity. Only by obtaining a trace of Sword Chi and using it to comprehend it could one have the chance to comprehend the Sword Chi. In the past, little Dugu had an agreement with the Sword Emperor. That was why she was bestowed with 3 Sword Chi. However, she lived in the Si Fan Palace and didn't allow outsiders to enter or touch the Sword Chi. Naturally, no one could take away the Sword Chi. However, Ning Fan had taken away 2 Sword Chi in a row, almost completing the vow. If Ning Fan took away the 3 Sword Chi, little Dugu would have no choice but to marry Ning Fan. She had made a great heart devil oath. Otherwise, how could the dignified Sword Emperor allow little Dugu to leave the sword world so easily, even if little Dugu was the daughter of another Sword Emperor? Seeing that the Bluestone was about to shatter and the vow dissipated, little Dugu heaved a sigh of relief despite her reluctance. She could learn the secret sword of the Sword Emperor because it was bestowed by the Sword Emperor. If outsiders were to cultivate it and the sword world knew about it, they would be erased. Ning Fan must not take away the Sword Chi in front of the people of the sword world. Otherwise, he would provoke the Sword Emperor of the sword world before settling the matter with Moksha Emperor. While she was filled with worries, the old monster sneered at her side. Brat, what do you think about the power of the Sword Chi on this Bluestone? This sword contains a trace of divine intent. Although it is a nascent soul Sword Chi, no early nascent soul cultivator would be able to resist it. Even an intermediate nascent soul cultivator would find it hard to resist it. If my cultivation base reaches nascent soul, I would be invincible below intermediate nascent soul realm with this Sword Chi. Then why aren't you going to take it? This is a good thing. That's right. I came back to 7 Apricot City with the intention of taking this sword. Ning Fan's eyes swept across the old monster, little Dugu and the cultivators of the sword world. From the words of the fair-skinned youth, he could vaguely guess that this Sword Chi was very important. That was why he didn't take it immediately. But at this moment, the old monster said that he was going to take it. He could hear that the old monster wanted him to take the sword chi, even if it might offend a great figure of the sword world. However, taking away this sword chi would obviously make the old monster happy. It would also help little Dugu greatly. This sword chi belongs to me. He flicked his sleeve, dispersing a few harmonious spirit cultivators. He patted his storage pouch and took out an empty sword scabbard. He then kept the third sword chi in the bluestone. This was the nascent soul sword chi, heart-drawing sword. The moment he took away the sword chi, the fair-skinned youth's expression changed drastically and roared in anger. You dare to take away this sword chi. Aren't you afraid of offending the 70 million sword cultivators of the sword world? No, I won't go to the sword world. Ning Fan smiled faintly, but his eyes turned cold and added. If I go to the sword world, no one will dare to touch me, not even the godly king of the sword world. Why should I be afraid? The fair-skinned youth took a few steps back. Under Ning Fan's killing intent, his face turned pale and he didn't dare to speak anymore. He would have to bear a great sin if he lost the sword chi. But if he offended Ning Fan, he would die on the spot. Ning Fan was a madman. He knew that taking away the sword chi would offend a ruthless person, but he still took it. Perhaps this time, the fair-skinned youth would barely complete the task of the little Duga clan after returning to the sword world, but it would still be hard to complete the task of the sword palace. What to do, what to do? When the fair-skinned youth's expression changed dramatically, little Dugu was stomping her feet in anger and shame. That hateful old monster. He clearly knew what oath this sword chi represented, but he still encouraged Ning Fan to take it. And that hateful little monster Ning actually took it away. Doesn't that mean, oh right, what is the special meaning of taking away this sword chi? Ning Fan asked after realizing it. There is no special meaning. But, she is yours. The old monster pointed at little Dugu with an extremely carefree expression. Wait a minute. This joke isn't funny. Ning Fan was confused, just like the old monster that day. Chapter 143. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If he knew that he would have to bear the burden of a girl's life by taking away the sword chi, he wouldn't have been so reckless. Even if he wanted to help little Dugu, he could have found another way. He was tricked by the old monster. The old monster's unscrupulous smile made Dugu stomp her feet in embarrassment while Ning Fan recollected his thoughts. His eyes were fixed on Dugu. Dugu immediately turned her head away in annoyance. Although she was annoyed, she didn't seem to be unwilling. Ning Fan sighed slightly. This girl seemed to have feelings for him. Trouble. But this trouble couldn't be avoided. Because Ning Fan noticed that there was an illusory sword chi mark on the back of his hand. On Dugu's hand, there was also a mark slowly emerging. As soon as this mark appeared, Ning Fan and Dugu felt a strange connection in their minds, as if there was an invisible thread that tied the two of them together. This is. He looked at the sword mark on the back of his hand and looked at the old monster for confirmation. The old monster immediately burst into laughter. This is the one-heart sword mark. With this mark, this little girl can only be your wife for the rest of her life. Little Ning, you have made a fortune. The old monster's words made Dugu feel even more humiliated. She vented her resentment on the ice and snow on the ground. Han Yuanji, you are not a thing. Little devil Ning, you are not a human. You are not a human. As for those arrogant sword cultivators, their faces looked bitter as if their parents had died. It's over. It's over. The one-heart sword mark has been produced. Even if Dugu returned to the sword world, she would never be able to marry the grandson of the divine emperor of the sword world. All right. Commander Qin, bring your men to rest first. I have something to say to my disciple. I don't want you to hear it. The fair-skinned young man sighed. There were 3 reasons why the old monster decided to go to the sword world. The first reason was for Ning Fan's safety. If he returned to the sword world, Moksha Emperor might not attack him. After all, with Moksha Emperor's arrogant personality, he would probably disdain to cross worlds to kill a mere Ning Fan. The second reason was because of Dugu. Dugu was in the form of a soul, like a female ghost. However, she was not killed by anyone. When she left the sword world, she was in the form of a soul, and her corporeal body remained in the sword world. This soul wasn't an ordinary soul, but a sword soul. It was a form of soul that only a few cultivators in the sword world were able to condense, and it was extremely strange to be able to utilize all of one's strength with just the body of a soul. However, there was still a time limit for the sword soul to leave the body. Most of the time, it would not exceed 100 years. Otherwise, it would be difficult for the sword soul to return to the body after a long period of time. It had been many years since Dugu's soul left the sword world. It was time for him to return. As for the third reason, it was because of the woman within the Sea of Fire. In the Sea of Fire under 7 Apricot City, the old monster, Ning Fan, and Dugu each had their own thoughts as they stood outside of the Sea of Fire, looking at the fire coffin in the center. In the fire coffin, a woman who looked similar to Dugu was in a deep slumber. Ning Fan's eyes only took a glance at the lady and immediately shifted away, as if looking at her one more time was blasphemy. She is Xiao Mei. Take a look at her, is she dead or alive? The old monster suddenly pointed out something and asked Ning Fan. The old monster deliberately brought Ning Fan here. Ning Fan naturally guessed that this woman was the author of the 7 Apricot transcript. She was Dugu's elder sister and the old monster's sweetheart. The biggest reason why the old monster accepted Ning Fan as his disciple was because of this woman. Ning Fan's eyes stared at the fire coffin and was secretly shocked. Putting aside the divine ability, the grade of this coffin was not any weaker than the Yin Yang Locket. Profound Yin World Treasure, Yin Yang Locket Pure Yang World Treasure, Heaven Evasion Coffin. This coffin emitted a trace of heaven-deceiving power, which made the woman's body undefeatable. The condition of this woman was extremely strange. It was as if she had lost all of her vitality, like a dead person. Once she left the fire coffin, she would immediately be buried in samsara. However, it wasn't accurate to say that this woman was dead. An extremely obscure trace of vitality was preserved under the heaven-deceiving power of the fire coffin. There seemed to be an unresolvable cold force in this woman's body. It was obviously ice, but it seemed to be burning inside the woman's body. That force had destroyed all of the woman's immortal veins. Otherwise, without this strange ice force, Ning Fan had several ways to save this woman. This ice force was too troublesome. Even a void fragmentation cultivator wouldn't dare to touch it. However, for some unknown reason, Ning Fan's Yin Yang Locket gently resonated with it. Moreover, there was a trace of qi that was extremely similar to Ning Fan's on this woman's body, causing Ning Fan's eyes to be slightly startled. This is Yin Yang Evil Vein. That's right. Little Mei and you have the same kind of evil vein. If there's anyone in this world who can save Little Mei, it's you. The old monster's words were suddenly stuck in his throat. His following words were somewhat hesitant. Little Ning, this old man has a way to save Little Mei, but the premise is that you have to break through to the void fragmentation realm. By then, even if you save Little Mei, I'm afraid that you will be severely injured. You can see that the ice force is too terrifying. Even if I recover all of my strength, I can only suppress it. Are you willing to help me save her? Ning Fan closed his eyes slightly. He also saw a trace of nervousness, struggle and contradiction in Dugu's expression. It was as if Dugu wanted her sister to resurrect, but was also worried that Ning Fan would be injured while saving her. When he opened his eyes again, Ning Fan only smiled faintly. If saving her is just a serious injury, it's only a small matter. Wait until I break through to the void fragmentation realm, I will definitely save her. But, do you really want to return to the sword world? Yes, we must return. Little May's father seems to have a way to nourish Little May's body and soul. In this way, the chances of her resurrection will be greater. Master, can I ask a question? How did this woman get so seriously injured? You can see it. This ice force is completely opposite to the power of my black evil sect. The black evil sect respects fire, and this ice force is very similar to the black evil sect. Ning Fan closed his eyes and pondered. He didn't hesitate to save her, but he was thinking about a question. He could see a trace of strangeness in this ice force. And the cause of this woman's injury couldn't help but arouse his attention. Who was it that dared to injure this woman to such an extent despite knowing that she was the daughter of a great figure in the sword world? It couldn't be Moksha Emperor. If it was Moksha Emperor, the old devil would have torn his skin off and this woman's father would have crossed the boundary to fight Moksha Emperor to the death. Speaking of which, Moksha Emperor must have betrayed the old devil when the old devil was still a true immortal. At that time, the old devil's strength was far beyond Moksha Emperor's, and Moksha Emperor wasn't even a void fragmentation expert. He couldn't even hurt the old devil's finger with just the absolute Een poison. The absolute Een poison of the old devil must have been secretly planted in him after his cultivation base was greatly damaged. Then, could it be that the person who injured this woman was an enemy of the old devil when he was a true immortal? So, that person was so powerful that the sword world didn't seem to care about this matter. When Moksha Emperor betrayed the old devil, there might be someone who instigated and supported him. Was that person the culprit who injured the old devil and this woman? Who was that person? Brat Ning, do you know that my black evil sect wasn't called this in the past? At first, it was a sect that belonged to the Four Devils sect. Later on, it split into two sections. One was the Black Evil sect, and the other was the White Evil sect, and the other was the Ice God. Brat Ning, remember this. If you have the chance to ascend to the Four Heaven Immortal world in the future, you must never reveal your identity as the sect master of the Black Evil sect. Above the Four Heaven, there is this old man's mortal enemy. His name is White Evil. At this moment, the old devil's eyes were filled with murderous intent. The hatred in his eyes seemed to want to tear the sky apart. Black Evil, White Evil. You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.